Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to the season finale of the UK Sim Racing Sunday GT3 Championship Season 17 as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC known as iRacing and proudly hosted by none other than SimRacing International. That's right folks, we have arrived at our final destination after 9 absolutely incredible rounds of racing action that have taken us around the globe. We have made our way to our season finale, and given the fact we're at Misano only a week ago, we haven't travelled too far. We've remained in Italy but made our way to the neighbouring Imola Circuit for what is going to be round 10 of 10. Known in full as the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo e Dino Ferrari, named after of course the founding father of Ferrari and his son. In honour of both of them, with the circuit originally taking the name of the Autodromo Internazionale Dino Ferrari and then being extended to include Enzo as well. Of course, the son passing before the father, a rarity in the modern era. Well, definitely this is one of those circuits that is a rarity in the fact that you can entirely change the nature of the circuit over its extensive history, but you never change the fact that it is an absolute thriller to go racing at. Indeed, when this circuit opened all the way best part, plus of 75 over years ago, it was one of those circuits that was seen as a power circuit as an alternative to the Italian tempo of speed that is Monza. And it's easy to understand why. Long straights, sweeping bends, and heavy braking zones. Indeed, that's everything that Monza has, albeit the absence of chicanes. But what's happened over time is for the purposes of safety and to bring the speeds down, this circuit has gradually seen more and more corner sequences added to it. Indeed, of course, the infamous and very tragic race weekend in 1994, the San Marino Grand Prix, which saw the passing of both Roland Ratzenberger on the Saturday and Ayrton Senna on the Sunday, really being the death knell for the high speed layout of the Imola circuit as we knew back then, and nowadays it's a 3.05 mile circuit with 17 corners, most of them being combinations of chicanes, sweeping bends and hairpins, and extended straights connecting the dots together, but nowhere near as long as they used to be. And what it means now, it's a very technical circuit to try and tackle. To do well here, you've got to be bold on the brakes, you've also got to be quick through the corners, but most importantly, you've also got to be quick on the straights. But the problem is you've got to add it all together, and that means this is one of those circuits that's all about stop-start style of racing. It's a sprint to every braking zone, and for our drivers here, it's going to be all about who can outrun one another to the next corner sequence and come out on top. Therefore, overtaking is going to be tricky. Track position is going to be vital, and that's why qualifying right now is definitely important in the eyes of our drivers, and a good bit of strategy wouldn't go amiss. But where are my manners? Allow me to welcome you to this live broadcast from Circuit Side. Yep, you heard that right. This broadcast, our season finale, is live. All the other broadcasts, of course, have been post-round throughout this season. We've got the pleasure to bring you this one live. Indeed, how could we not bring the curtain down on season 17 without bringing all the race action live from Circuit Side? You can catch it all in the one and only place. You can catch all the weekly racing action at SimRacing International, and there's at youtube.com and search for SimRacing International SRI. And hello to you guys and girls tuning in. Of course, we'll come to you very shortly. But in the commentary booth, you have myself. My name is Paul Walsh, and I'll be covering all your racing action as it unfolds as we bring the season to a close. But without further ado, of course, let's bring you a recap of what's happened last time out in round number 9 and exactly what the standings stand after 9 rounds of absolutely incredible racing action. So as we can see, we take a trip back in time to our calendar, and we have made our way around the globe. From Adelaide to the Saxon Ring to Daytona to Portimao to Miami. That was the first half of the season. And indeed, it was not a stop of the whamminess as we then made our way to Monza, then to VIR, to Bathurst, the Nürburgring, Cross the Price Tracker. And last time out, on the 8th of March, we made our way back to Italy. And that's where we're staying. And we started at the Misano Grand Prix circuit. When exactly did we see in an hour of sunshine-filled racing there? Well, we got to see some very interesting battles, particularly at the forefront of the field, where Andrea Miatto trying to chase down his 4th win of the season. He thought he had it on paper. It was a race of intrigue. Took pole position, of course, and led the way in the early stage of the race. However, there's always the constant threat of William Arnesen from Beta Frost and Hayden Miller from Phoenix Racing. But what we got to see in the second stint in particular, the pace of our Tartan Res Tech driver started to fall away. And as Miatto came under increasing pressure, William Arnesen was the first up on the block. He went battling in. There was a duel between the two of them, and Miatto was able to fend them off. But it had to be elbows out racing between the two of them, and we've seen plenty of that from them this season. Then, at the very end, on the final lap, Hayden Miller said, "It's now my turn to take the win." However, he may have snuck ahead going in towards one of the hairpins at turn number 10, only to find in he was biffed wide at turn number 14, and that indeed pushed a pass there, as adjudicated by our stewards, is what Andrea Miatto thought was going to be enough to be able to take victory, his 4th of the season, tying things up with victories with William Arnesen. However, post-race stewarding meant that suddenly that win was taken away earlier on this week, and it does mean that your winner last time out was none other than Hayden Miller in the elite class, and Andrea Miatto relegated relegated to second there after the push to pass, but indeed it does mean that still the championship very much looking in the way of Andrea Miatto, because there was a big bit of drama in the final lap as well, and well, you'd think that was the drama there. Not quite. The biggest drama in them all, of course, was the fact that we did see our major championship contender of William Arnesen retire from the race on the final lap due to a technical issue. The Mercedes blew up, its whole engine went up in smoke, and suddenly the Beta Frost driver, who was hoping to be able to keep the championship alive all the way to the very end, we has theoretically kept it alive, as you'll see shortly. How the only problem is right now he's going to need a miracle, and those seem to be in short supply. Meanwhile, in the Pro class, what we got to see there was that whereas his rival struggled last round, Kyle Roy was able to finish second, but nobody could touch Maxime Philippard, who absolutely led the way from lights out to checkered flag. Indeed, right now the Belgian driver, he definitely thinking to himself, he joined the season right at the start and had a couple of non-finishes. Could he potentially be chasing the Pro crown today? Well, it's not to be, and Kyle Roy right now seems to be fully in control. And meanwhile, in the Interclass, well, we've definitely seen the scene set very nicely. However, we are going to be tearing up the book with regards to the Interclass shortly, and we'll explain. We're not going to reveal the spoiler just yet, but in the fact in the Interclass last time out, your winner was none other than Robin Pownier, who took pole position by only 31 thousandths over Craig Hewlett, and he did look set to be under major pressure from Hewlett, but an altercation between Craig Hewlett and Sean Connor through turn 2 on the open lap saw the two of them relegated down the field, and Robin Pownier after that just walked away with the inter-win, and definitely has practically levelled the score versus his rival in the Interclass of Andrea Miatto coming into this season finale. Speaking of which, we are here then at the Imola Grand Prix circuit. It is the 15th of March today. 1 hour of racing awaits us, sunshine abounds, and well, ladies and gentlemen, if that's setting the scene with regards to who won last time after Misano and the key points in the racing, well, what exactly is where the standings stand? And here we go then to the standings. We begin with the Elite Class Top 12, and here we can see Andrea Miatto on 720 points, the Tartan Red Stick driver right now, knowing that it's not quite complete because we don't drop the season finale. 1 round is dropped over the course of the first 9 rounds of the season, but we do not drop the season finale, which means 100 points are up for grabs today if you do take victory. And therefore, with a gap of 80 points to William Arnesen, it's almost said and done. If you're wondering what the permutations exactly are here for our hero at the very top from Italy, all he's got to do to become a home hero and a home champion is finish 13th or higher. If he scores 21 or more points, it is impossible for William Arnesen to be able to take the crown off him, because he cannot tie if he takes 21 or more points. If he was to take 20 or more points, and it could be a tie, and then William Arnesen would win on result countback, given the fact that Miatto could not win the race and have what would be a tie up there, so therefore he would only have 3 wins to Arnesen's 4. So that's the thing you've got to watch out for here. And the Beta Frost driver right now will be hoping that the bad luck he's had midway through the season goes away from him right at the end. However, if it's all almost tied up for the victor, then what exactly is happening for second, third, fourth and fifth? Well, the threat from second to third between the two teammates of Beta Frost, of Arnesen and Henrik Rhys Strand, there's no real threat between them right now, given the fact that Henrik Rhys Strand would need a similar set of circumstances to be able to take second place away from Arnesen. However, the question, of course, will be who's going to finish third, and that's still wide open between Strand and now Rhys Saunders. Now, Rhys Saunders, of course, the pro champion in Thursday's GT3 series at SimRacing International, but it's a bit of a different story here on Sundays, with the fact he's only taken 2 podiums this season, a 10th place last time out, and right now he'll need a big overhaul of score if he wants to try and move his way back into third right at the very end, but never say never, to be fair, with Henrik Rhys Strand. Meanwhile, from Norway 9, he's still got some work to do after struggling on pace last time out. He really seemed to be nowhere near the pace we've seen so far this season, and therefore had to settle for that third place spot on the podium. But outside that top 4 then, Pietro Antonio Pasquariello, he sits in 5th on 488 points, theoretically could still weigh third, but he would need to land his best result of the season, or at least match his previous best of a second place, and on top of that as well, he would then need to see his rival struggle in the race. So Tartan Red Stick driver right now will be making sure he tries to finish 5th, given the fact that Harvey Wheeler is only of 14 points behind him for three-wheeler racing by Phoenix. Then we do have Richard Simnor sitting in 7th currently for DCW Racing ahead of Max Wheeler, and well, the three-wheeler racing driver there definitely also trying to move forward by Phoenix, and right now definitely enjoying his Audi or his BMW. Switched to the BMW, of course, back all the way at Monza, and since then the BMW has been giving him mixed results, but it has been worth it in the long haul, some would say. He's come to ahead of Hayden Miller, who has moved tonight with that win, his second win of the season, and on 370 points right now, he cannot be touched by Casper Brockner, so therefore he's going to see how far he can go in the hunt for a top 5. Albeit Casper Brockner sits in 10th place on 264 points, only 22 ahead of Salvatore Ferrandino, and then we do see in 12th place there, Jakub Stofko, only 4 points behind, and after not being on the grid last time out at Misano, where if he is on the grid today, he'll be looking to give it his all to see where he can finish inside that top 10 when all is said and done. So that is the elite class. What about the pros, meanwhile? Well, here you can see in the Pro Class Championship, Carl Roy, he is the man to beat. He is the firm favourite, and with an advantage there of 88 points, all he needs to do today is score 12 points or more, 15th place or higher in his class, and he will have wrapped things up. A second place last time out, it wasn't quite perfection. He would have loved to have had the win, of course, but still, when Maxim Philippart absolutely dominated, he did the best thing. Make sure he beat his rivals, and did his rivals struggle last time out? Sean Connor for Connor Bros Racing, 7th place only in the end, and you could put a lot of it down to the fact he did, of course, have that altercation with Craig Hewlett right at the start of the race, which saw him relegated and turned on around, and indeed right now he's definitely relegated himself to a battle for second place. Speaking of which, Nathan Anstis, you would think that he would have capitalised. It was a miserable day in qualifying, 6th only. He was off pace in qualifying, and then in the race found himself relegated to the back of the field following a drive-through penalty midway through the race. Also a big impact with the wall on pit entry, which of course wasn't the way you wanted to enter the pits, but he definitely made sure that the suspension and the front bumper of his Porsche were kept together very nicely, and the UK SimRacing Ministry driver right now, knowing he's locking horns with one of his rivals of the season, but they're not locking horns for the biggest spoils, they're locking horns for the secondary spoils. Matthew Croft, meanwhile, he sits in 4th there for Axis SimSport Z, and right now the British driver, well, as a return to the podium last time out, continuing his theme of podiums. Can he make it one more podium on the go? Could he potentially steal away second place here? He can do it, to be fair, when he is only the best part of 44 points behind Sean Connor, and only a further 2 away from Nathan Anstis in the reverse order. Ross Young sits in 5th there, the Scotsman right now, and he can't quite steal second. He can, in theory, steal 3rd place, but what he's going to try and do is make sure he doesn't lose his 5th place to Steve Hobbs, the sim coach, as the Dexterous Motorsports ZMX driver right now holds a comfortable margin of 50 points there. But to be fair, 50 points doesn't sound that comfortable in reality when the Ford Mustang driver is definitely trying to push forward. Darren Sharples sits a further, what is 18 points adrift there. In fact, 16 points adrift when I can do my mental mathematics. And the old dudes in cars driver right now has definitely had improved in form in the previous round, but can he return to the podium one more time? The same could be said for Rob Windsor. It's been a long time since we've seen him on the podium. You'd have to go all the way back to round number 2 for UKSimRacing International driver there on 328, and he's only 14 points ahead of Maxim Philippart, who right now, if he's able to rinse and repeat what he did last time out, well, understandably, he can move in his way all the way into 8th before the season is said and done for Gassed Up Motorsport. Hendrik Zilka completes your top 10 for Old Dudes in Cars ahead of Eduardo Reyes, and what a day it was there for the Axis SimSport driver last time out, finishing on the podium, indeed his first podium of the season. In fact, not last time out, he wasn't on the grid last time out, indeed it was 2 rounds ago he was last on the grid, but indeed those mixed conditions there, taking a 3rd place in round number 8, and we hope to see him back today, and we'd love to see the Spaniard there end his season on a high if he can by moving back into the top 10. And Ashley Brooks, meanwhile, round off the top 12 there, only a further 78 points behind. Then to the interclass we go. And as we can see here in the interclass, look how close it is. Andrew Montaigne on 706 points, Rowan Powney on 698. You would think this is going to come down to the very limit. However, ladies and gentlemen, we've done all the permutations, we've done all the mathematics. There's just one slight problem here. We would have a big rivalry. We would have a very tight championship battle. But sadly, Robin Pownier is not going to be on the grid today, as we understand it. So therefore, he's on holiday. He's in the sunny conditions of Spain. If he is tuning in right now, Robin, I hope you're having a good time on holiday. But it does mean we won't be seeing the sim coach driver take the test to Andrew Montaigne for Axis SimSport. And therefore, right now, Andrew Montaigne knows that by default, he is going to be your champion today, because nobody else can catch him unless he goes through a lot of naughty business and picks up several major license points, which would see him lose actual championship points. Remember, in our season finales at SimRacing International, if you pick up license points, they are converted into championship point deductions. But to be fair, he's one of the cleanest drivers out there, and we doubt that. So Andrew Montaigne, in theory, is going to be your de facto champion at the end of the day, because Robin Pownier has not snuck his way onto the grid, and I do believe he wasn't able to sneak his sim racing rig onto the flight to Spain. But still, behind the Swede then, it's all about the fight for third. You have the leading protagonist of Craig Hewlett, who right now should arguably be inside the championship fight, but it hasn't gone his way in terms of lady luck this season. But he is the best part there of 16 points ahead of Martin Kenyon for Dexterous Motorsports, who took a second place last time out, and indeed a big score for him, and he'll be hoping he can rinse and repeat that one more time. Grant Miller, he sits in 5th place there. He cannot finish third, but he can try and steal away that 4th place from Martin Kenyon, but he's going to be keeping an eye on the fact that Tom Wheeler is not too far behind, only 12 points between the pair. Behind the three-wheeler racing by Phoenix Dry, it's then Nick Parks, only a further 8 points behind, and keep your eyes out for Nick Parks. He's been looking very quick in the last few rounds, particularly when we saw him in Germany 2 weeks ago. David Young sits 8th there. He's a comfortable gap away from Nick Parks, therefore Parks is going to feel safe away from the South African driver, but Young meanwhile has moved ahead of Alexander Wingmark for the first time this season by 2 points. Can he end with another top 5 after that brilliant result, his best result of the season, his first top 5? He'd love to rinse and repeat that. Alexander Wingmark then falls to 9th, and 9 he needs to rebound, but he has Daniel Pays not too far away, and indeed Daniel Pays has found his way into 4th place, indeed almost making it to the podium once again. And he's definitely on a run of results at the back end of the season. My old dudes in cars dry who completes your top 10. It's then Shane Cotton and Shane Connor. The two Shanes there batting for the right to be the best of the Shanes and finish in 11th place. But as for the team's championship, this is how the team's standing after 9 rounds of racing. It's Axis SimSport who lead the way, particularly Axis SimSport Z. They have a little bit of an advantage of 98 points to Beta Frost there, and right now it's between those two for the title. But who exactly is going to take it? The theory is that if you were a betting man, you'd put your money on Axis SimSport Z, given the fact they do have a bit of an advantage. However, SimCoach, meanwhile, they cannot look at the top two. They've got to make sure that Freewheeler Racing by Phoenix do not close to them, and the gap between those two teams very similar to the gap between the top two. Next, Dexterous Motorsport Zemix, only a further, it's 18 points behind, and then we do have Miracle Group M Esports. They're in 6th place, and right now they may have an opportunity to steal away in the top 5. However, they've got to be aware of the fact they've got the threat of UKSimRacing Mish behind them, as they have Tartan Reds Tech and Phoenix Racing, with Connor Bros Racing, meanwhile, almost the best part of 100 points away from 9th, and therefore they're going to be looking to consolidate their top 10 finish. And when they do have Axis SimSport Y hold on to 11th, and albeit they do have a 50-point gap to the top 10, well, it looks like Connor Bros Racing may be completing that top 10, and Axis SimSport Y will need to keep old dudes and cars amnesia behind them, and indeed the fight for 11th just as strong as the fight for the top spots. So that is a recap in the standings coming into this round, and let's talk a little bit about host circuit quickly. And here we can see it is the Imola Grand Prix circuit, located in the town from which it takes its name in the Emilia-Romagna region of Italy. 3.05 miles in length or 4.9 kilometers depending on your preference of units, but one thing that always stays the same is the number of corners, 17 of them, and a huge thank you to iRacing.com, not just their brilliant simulator, but the absolutely fantastic track maps contained within it. And as we can see here, a whole multitude of chicanes, including Tamburello, Villeneuve, and also the combination of Acqua Minerale into Variante Alta. We also do have hairpins at both Tulsa and also Ravazza at turns 14 and 15, albeit we also have some sweepers in the form of Piratella and the entry into Acqua Minerale of turn number 9. So there's something for everybody here, and also you notice we do have some rather long straights, including the run all the way from Ravazza 2 at turn 15, down towards Tamburello at turns 2, 3 and 4. The straight connecting Tamburello to Villeneuve, and also the stretch running from Alta all the way down to Ravazza. So therefore, a mixture of straights, plenty of corners, and that's why you can tell this is going to be a difficult one to overtake at. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's pay price to words and indeed make our way back to circuit side, because we still got the best part of 13 minutes left in this qualifying session, and let's not wait any further from bringing you the on-circuit action. And as we can see here, well, right now we do have Sean Connor making his way on around, and Connor in a new car for today. Indeed, it does look as though the Connor Bros Racing driver has made the switch there, and I'm getting HKS livery vibes, and I'm talking about the JDM Racing era Skylines, dating back to what would be the late noughties, and, well, not late noughties, the early noughties, late 90s, if I remember correctly. They used to put them on the R32 and R33 Skylines, if my memory serves me correctly, and indeed that livery being copied over to the drag races on Gran Turismo 2, if anybody remembers the console game on the PSX or the PlayStation 1, depending on your region. But a lovely livery on the car there, and I do love the colour styling. Now, whether they were inspired by the HKS liveries of old, not quite sure, but indeed we do have Sean Connor switching away from his stalwart car, the McLaren, and going to the Aston Martin for this season finale. They do get, of course, one car change. They can use it at any point in the season. They do not have a restriction on when they can use it, and he's decided to go very late to using it. And what an interesting gamble there, and I do wonder whether that may pay off in the very end, but we will see whether it's going to do so or not. We can definitely tell you that. But Sean Connor makes his way on around. Well, he's the fastest of your pros out there, ahead of Kyle Roy. Kyle Roy right now being a whole 10th slower. But to be fair to Kyle Roy, does he need to beat them? No, he doesn't. All he needs to do is make sure he scores some points today, and he will be your pro champion. And he's looking very happy to do that right now, as we have a grand total of 31 drivers who made the trip here to Imola, albeit we do have 30 who've put lap times together and one who has not, James Conley. And we don't have any qualifying bans for any drivers today, or any penalties that will be applied during the races, such as drive-through penalties. So therefore, everyone can qualify, including James Conley, but I get the feeling right now he's staying in the garage in his Ferrari and waiting until the last moment, or he might decide to start from the back, to be fair. And he's in the Interclass, so he'll be in very close company with fellow Inters towards the very back, including none other than Ryan Littlemore and Alexander Vingmark, who you see here for Beta Frost, who right now definitely trying to put a better qualifying lap together. He's currently 29th, 3.2 seconds off the overall pole time. But in terms of the gap between him and the current provisional pole sitter in the Interclass of none other than Martin Kenyon, well, that grand total of a gap is the best part there, if my mental mathematics is correct, around about 2.3 seconds. So Martin Kenyon looking very quick, and here he's parked up in the pit lane. Well, can Kenyon take what would be a pole position here today in the Interclass? If so, well, was that gasp of pace that we saw at the Nürburgring in the wet conditions a sign of the fact he's got a lot of pace on tap? And indeed, that would be absolutely brilliant if it was to be. But if he's currently your provisional pole sitter in Inter, we've spoken about your provisional pole sitter in Pro, then there's one class we're not thinking about. It's at the very top, going toe-to-toe today, and it's Andrea Miatto. And here he is right now, making his way on around 2 tenths quicker than everybody else. But indeed, that's been one of the themes this season for Miatto, particularly since round number 4. And in fact, his qualifying times have been absolutely outlandish. But the problem is his pace in the opening stint race has also been just as strong. And it's in the second stint he's normally lost out in the final 10 minutes. His pace has started to fall off a cliff. Now, we get the feeling that he's pushing this Aston Martin very hard. He's very comfortable in the car, but it comes at a cost. The way he drives it seems to mean that his tyre life goes against him in those final 5 to 15 minutes of the race. It depends from circuit to circuit, and that's what we saw at Misano in the clear conditions there. The final 15 minutes, Miatto's pace, it took a nosedive by about 3/10 on average a lap, and it meant that Arnesen and also Miller were able to catch up quite quickly. Now, to be fair, it always comes from one direction and the other in the fact that if you're much quicker on the tyres early on, you may use up a lot of their life later on. Meanwhile, if you are someone like William Arnesen, who you see here for Beta Frost, the only man who can potentially dethrone Miatto today, should results go his way, he needs a lot of lady luck on his side to be able to achieve it, we should remind you. Well, right now, as we see the Beta Frost driver going out there, he hasn't been the quickest driver on one lap pace, but his strength as a driver has been his consistency over the race and the fact he's able to develop pace as time goes on. Normally, the longer the race, albeit all the races have been 60 minutes, but understandably, I think he's one of those drivers, if you said to him, you're going to be driving that car for 2 hours, he'd be able to keep pumping out those lap times, whereas other drivers he would not. That's the kind of driver he seems to be. He's an endurance driver or a stintage driver rather than a one-lap driver. But between him and Miatto right now, Rhys Saunders, well, the BMW M4 Evo driver, of course, the story of the fact he's not in his venerable Ford Mustang is the fact that Altitude 3M Esports brought the wrong car to the Nürburgring back in round number 8. Indeed, when they brought the car off the low loader, he made his way out of what was his trailer, and indeed, he said at the time, hold up a second, that's not American muscle, that's German efficiency. And the team went, oh, we got it wrong. And, well, for Rhys Saunders, unfortunately, from that point onwards, he's now been committed to the BMW by accident. Of course, he's used his car swapping theory, and he cannot swap it back. And indeed, as he rolls around right now, when his BMW, he's looking quite quick, to be fair. It is a car that he's familiarised himself with. It's not as though he's a stranger to this car, but he's not as comfortable as he would be in his Ford Mustang by comparison. Also, we have Henrik Strand currently in third there, and we're Richard Simnor currently in the pit lane and out of his car. So Simnor currently being serviced, I do believe, and with VCW Racing defending champion, he has lost his title defence from season 16 in the elite class, but to be fair, he's also had some heroic moments, including that battle for the win at the Nürburgring when he lost out to William Arnesen on the final lap, trying to look for a move, but the road wasn't wide enough given the wet weather conditions there to be able to poke and probe in place. But speaking of a place we haven't been to, we do need to say hello to a few of you there in the YouTube chat, including Mikhail Abasek. And good evening to you, good sir. I hope you're doing well. And, well, I do believe one of our big drivers in terms of the Inox Motorsport team from the GTE Championship Season 1. And I'm very pleased to hear, ladies and gentlemen, recently we're going to be seeing all of the team, including Mikhail, back on the grid for that series. And that will be kicking off for Season 2 right at the end of this month in the next couple of weeks. That's something to stay tuned to. And we're going to tell you a little bit more later on in today's broadcast about Season 18 of the Sunday GT3 Championship seasons, because at the end of the day, we've got plenty more racing to come. So when this broadcast does wrap up and we've completed our post-round interviews, don't go away if you want to know what's planned for Season 18, because we've got definitely plenty on plan. But Steve Hobbs rolls his way around there for Sim Coach in the 116, looking quick, no doubt about it, currently the full fastest in this pro class, and he's definitely taken some inspiration today, I can tell you that. And I wonder where he thinks so he might be able to steal away that 5th place from his rivals. If so, it's definitely going to be an impressive steal, no doubt about it. And I do believe we're chasing after Grant Miller in that regard. We also do say hello there to Proxy and giving a smiley face there, and I'm giving you a smiley face back here in the commentary booth. In fact, you know what, let's chop you up. Send you a quick smiley face also there, and we'll do it backwards like your own to reciprocate. But we are smiling then. That's from the official SimRacing International account, which they've given me the keys to. That's very dangerous for them to do so, ladies and gentlemen. To be fair, I've got so much power in this commentary booth. I'm only kidding, of course. But we also do say hello there to Dead Samurai 573, who says, come on, Daddy Wheeler. And well, getting a shout out there to the older members of the Wheeler family. And we do see Harvey making his way on around there. Indeed, of course, we have 3 members of the Wheeler family out here. We have none other than Harvey, also Max, and I do believe Tom as well. And of course, very intricate set of relationships there in terms of how they stand as family. Albeit it's not that complicated at the end of the day, although I've made it sound that way. But how they all fit together is the fact that it's the Wheeler family of Max and Tom are brothers, and well, you are seeing here none other than Harvey, and Harvey is Max's son. And keep in mind, of course, racing in the elite class here, Harvey is only 14 years of age. I can tell you one thing, he may be a youngster, but he has been driving with absolute maturity this season, and that is why as he makes his way out to the final corner, we're going to jump on board with him for a flying lap of the Imola Circuit. So making his way down towards turn number 2. Of course, coming from the Kinka 17 here, flat out in the Aston Martin V8 Vantage Evo, that guttural V8 baseline, making his way all the way down into the braking zone. Braking there will be just after the Marshall's post, about 160 meters from corner apex. Turns in, left into right through turns 2 and 3, up to 3rd gear. Now flat out through turn number 4, take a little bit of curve to turn the car. Nothing more, and now down towards Villeneuve. Looking to his right hand side, and as he does so, it'll be the 50 meter ball there. Dab the brakes, drop a gear, keep it nice and tight with the left to open up the right hander at turn number 6, and now exiting out, using all the exit curve as much as he dares to abuse it before going into toast to bend. Hard on the brakes, coming through the long left hairpin, going uphill as well. Very tricky corner to get right. If you go too quick on the throttle, you'll understeer out, but get it just right like that, and now you're making your way up towards Piratella Bend. Now coming over the crest and down into the braking zone for Piratella, braking at the 50 meter board, down to 3rd gear. A little bit of apex curve there, but let the car roll out, and now coming down the hill in towards Aqua Minerale. The corner, we can either go on the brakes or lift and coast. He's going to dab the brakes slightly, drop to 4th gear, then to 3rd, then to 2nd, and now pull the car through turn number 10, straighten out the exit there, making sure to keep 2 wheels in the white lines. Now heading up towards the auto chicane, as we do see while the driver step aside there, and now getting ready for the braking zone here, braking at the 100 meter board, all the way down to the 2nd gear for the auto chicane, chopping his way over the apex curves as much as he dares to cut them. Go too much over them and you will be getting a black flag for what will be track limits, and also the fact you will be seeing the car oscillate around. But he gets it right, now coming down in towards 13 and 14 through the kink and in towards Rat. So as soon as you straighten the car onto the brakes for a Vat's 1, you're braking downhill 150 meters downhill, and now through 1 in towards 2, dab of the brakes there at the 100 meter mark, and coming out in 2nd gear, and it's flat out to the line here for Wheeler. What's it going to be this time? And well, in terms of his lap, he's not really improving at the moment, unfortunately, so I think it's going to stay just like that. But he comes on through, and it has been a decent lap, no doubt about it. He's currently 7th fastest, and that's where he's going to stay overall and in elite. As meanwhile, Sean Connor tries to improve a little bit further. He is only, by comparison, at 14 thousandths behind. So leading pro driver are looking good. As meanwhile, one driver is trying to look a bit better. Well, that's not looking good at all. That's Ashley Brooks parked up in the gravel, and I suspect that might be at Ravazza 1. He's had a bit of a moment. But meanwhile, as we do see Grant Miller making his way towards Ravazza 2, he's successfully made that journey. He comes out of the final major corner. Of course, turn 16, the kink here, which does act as the opening for the MotoGP chicane. You have the Kinka turn 17, which theoretically goes on to next lap, but because it is behind the start line of the race, and that's why it's considered to be turn 17, not turn 1, well, Grant Miller comes across the line there, and his lap is done, but it is not a better one. So therefore, he stays in 19th, and he stays 30 into drivers right now as he hops and skips his way between the corners. But as all these drivers carry on, well, we can see a few smiles there in the YouTube chat. I do love the fact we've engendered a smile culture here in the YouTube chat. And of course, if you are tuning in right now, don't be shy. Well, of course, if you are shy, that's completely understandable. We do love to say hi here at SimRacing International. And at the end of the day, the only biting we will see is that on the road. It'll be the biting or comes from brake discs. You'll not see any biting there in the YouTube chat. We're very civil people at SimRacing International. And as Eduardo Rhys makes his way on through, well, skipping and jumping his way between the apexes there at Tamburello, in a McLaren that definitely is a bit of a double-edged sword around the Imola Circuit, because the upside of the McLaren is the British Mark machine is very good on quick-fire direction change. So you would think chicanes like Tamburello and Villeneuve are great for this car, and you'd be right. There's just one slight problem. This car is also very sensitive to pitch. And the key point being around here, you do not want to touch those curbs too aggressively, because to do so will upset the car. Indeed, the McLaren, a very forward-leaning car. When you look at the side-on profiles, he makes his way past our static camera here, coming all the way through Piratella. You'll see the fact that whilst the car does look quite grounded, it's actually pitched very aggressively towards the front axle, which means this is one of those cars which has great forward visibility. It's one of the best things about the McLaren, which it doesn't sound like much great forward visibility. What good is that? Well, it means as a driver you can pinpoint your apexes incredibly well. It also means that actually this car has a lot of rotation over the rear axle because of the way that it's aerodynamically pitched forward. So understandably, you hit a curb high and you're suddenly going to find that all that aerodynamic ability of the car is going to be thrown around. Indeed, that can happen for any car, but the McLaren definitely very sensitive to those curbs out there, and that's why Eduardo Rhys is trying to avoid tackling them wherever possible. He wants to go a little bit wider of them. As we do say hello to Jared Love there. Good evening to you, good sir, and I hope you're doing well. And Jared Love, of course, being one of our stars on the first day GT3 Championship, and we did have the pleasure of bringing him into the interview room as one of our final interviews for the season that wrapped up last Thursday. But 20 seconds left on the clock, some late improvements coming in. Steve Hobbs has just leapt his way up to 14th. 4th in the Pro class. So good lap from Steve Hobbs. But right now, can anybody else improve out there? Well, Carl Rhys trying to go even quicker as Miguel Pietro Antonio Pasquarello has improved. He's got one more lap under his wing now, but he moves to 10th now, 41.199. So good lap from him, but still find himself down in 10th place. Can he go a little bit further before the end of the day, before we go to the race? Maybe, maybe not. Meanwhile, what's happening out there for Harvey Wheeler? Well, Wheeler's making his way on down, and as he does so there, well, Harvey right now, for some reason, being shown as a interclass driver, when I do believe, in fact, he is an elite class driver there, so that's a glitch of our time tally, ladies and gentlemen. We do apologise for that. The checker flag comes out with regards to his qualifying session. Indeed, he can't go any further. Meanwhile, all the way down the order, Shane Connor in his Corvette has improved. The lovely red velvet machine makes his way on down, and that's 1 minute 42.559, so puts himself right between Brooks and Pace. So good lap from him. Here's Eduardo Roy's on his way around as Henrik Rhys Strand has just left the pit lane. I think he's decided to do a bit of a practice launch of the car, and well, in fact, no, he's going towards the end of an outlap there, so that was just to sight up the circuit a little bit more. But we've only got a couple more laps left on the clock here from drivers, including Steve Hobbs. He makes his way on through. Now, in terms of our weather conditions for today, as we do bring those up on the right-hand side of your screen there, a couple of you asking about that, we do see we have an ambient at 20 degrees centigrade today and a track temperature of 29 degrees centigrade, and well, there's quite a bit of cloud in sight, so track temperature is going to stay quite static. But as Steve Hobbs makes his way into the pit lane, he's going nowhere further. His lap time stays static as well, and I think that is it for qualifying, ladies and gents. I think everyone has completed their laps, and indeed it's going to be Andrea Miatto who takes pole position for this season, the elite provisional championship leader right now, trying to convert it into what will be a provisional championship crown. And Rhys Saunders not too far behind, 2/10 off, and it was very tight to be in that second place spot, as we do see there as well. The fact there was Henrik Rhys Strand and Richard Similar lined up on row 2 together, with William Arnesen only 26 thousandths away, and Casper then a further 2/10 adrift in 6th. Meanwhile, when we do look to your pro class, it's going to be a pole position for Sean Connor ahead of Kyle Roy. So no Maxim Philippar today, and Sean Connor's picked up the gap. And well, the gap between the two of them being only half a tenth, they line up on 8th and 9th respectively, and you have to go to 11th for Matthew Croft, who managed to sneak ahead of Steve Hobbs right towards the end. And then we do see in the interclass there a maiden pole position for Martin Kenyon, starting in 12th overall, but on pole for Inter. And you have to go to Andre Montaigne, who is the de facto Inter champion in the absence of Rowan Paunia, and indeed he will start in second in the class, 15th overall, with Grant Miller then making his way to 3rd in that grid, 19th. Well, comfortable gap to John Ludbrook, who'll start full for the class ahead of Nick Parks and Tom Wheeler. So there's going to be excitement everywhere you look when we go to the grid. But of course, with qualifying complete, we do have just a little bit of a breather coming up. And well, that breather is going to be for the purposes of one thing and one thing only, and that will be our 5-minute warm-up session for our drivers. But as our circuit does fall silent and we have our warm-up session, that's a perfect time for us to tell you a little bit about what is to come in Season 18. So, rather than wax lyrical about what's happening circuit side, let's talk about what is next season whilst we've got 5 minutes. So, if you are sat there right now thinking, okay, I've missed getting onto the grid for the purposes of Season 17, but what can I expect in Season 18? Well, it all begins once again on Sunday, the 5th of April 2026. We have a new season, but we are dubbing it as the UKSimRacing Sunday Showdown Series. Now, there's a slightly new title there. We're still racing GT3. We're not moving away from the class whatsoever, as you can see. But what exactly is perhaps new then for Season 18? Well, what we can see here, it's a new season and we have 3 new showdown rounds. So, we're going to go on to exactly what that means. But that is the big change. We'll still have our 10 championship rounds in total and 3 championship classes. We are going to be doing some slight class renaming. The elite class is going to become the pro class, where if you've got 2,800 or more iRating, you'll naturally fit into that. Then we do see the pro class become the inter class, and that will be for drivers between 1,800 and 2,800 iRating. And then we will be relabeling the inter class, as it currently stands, the Evo class. And we are standardising across the board, across all of our series. It's to make things a lot easier when it comes to class assignments and also understanding where you are in relation to your peers, regardless of what series you race in here at SimRacing International. What we can see there is the Evo drivers are anybody up to 1,800 iRating. That is the baseline, of course. Those are on the boundaries or perhaps have a higher iRating because they race in other series, particularly other disciplines such as GT4 or alternatively, let's say, GTPs. We will consider it on a case-by-case basis. But there will be 35 personalised driver trophies to be won across our drivers and teams championships. Championships, and the series will be broadcasted. I'll be back in the commentary booth covering all the racing action, albeit it will be as if it were live. We'll be going back to the post-race broadcast format, but hopefully towards the end of the season, we will be bringing you live broadcasts where we can from the showdown rounds. And that's what we must come on to lastly then, the showdown rounds. What exactly is this all about for the season 18? Well, as you can see, we have rounds 1 to 10. They are regular race rounds. They are like normal. Indeed, there's nothing special about them. They're worth the same amount of points they would be. However, we have 3 showdown rounds, rounds 8, 9, and 10, and those will be rounds that, if I remember correctly, will be worth more points, and indeed, they will be undroppable rounds, although don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% certain. Indeed, I should have read the rule book a little bit more closely before we did go broadcasting today. I'm doing this off of memory right now, but indeed, what it does mean is that essentially you have your 7 regular rounds and 3 showdown rounds out there, and you want to be on the grid all the way through to the very end, because those showdown rounds are definitely going to have a big emphasis. You start off the season strong and you can carry on, but meanwhile, if you've had a difficult season, you may just be able to get things back when it comes to the showdown, and we will see the introduction there of 2 90-minute race rounds as well. So therefore, we've got some extended races for that for the purposes of that season, and that's going to keep things even more intriguing as the season does go on. Now, I'm just double checking with regards to rules and regulations. Indeed, rounds 1 to 10 will be undroppable, and meanwhile, rounds 1 to 10 will be droppable in terms of there's 1 drop score in there, but rounds 8 through to 10, there won't be the ability to drop any one of them. So that is the main difference, and that is why it's going to be a very interesting set of showdown races right at the end of the season. So that's what you can expect with regards to season 18, ladies and gentlemen, and that's why if you definitely want to get on the grid, there's no better time to do so at SimRacing International, and it could be a very exciting season ahead. But without further ado, let's come back to the season that we are here with now. And as we can see, this warm-up session not too far away from completion. And Harvey Wheeler making his way on around right now for three-wheeler racing. And as he does so, well, we're only now about 1.5 minutes away from making our way to the grid for the final time. And as we do say hello there to the time consumer, and good evening to you, good sir. And I do believe we are going to be seeing the time consumers team. That's Mark Kent, in other words. And you'll see plenty of him, I do believe, in the GTE Championship next season. Although I don't know if he's competing in the GT3s. Do let us know, Mark, if you've got a moment there, because I do believe Full Tilt Motorsport are going to be making their way onto that GT grid in full force, particularly given the fact that GT does have the new tyre model, which is going down very well from what I gather with the hardcore GT drivers at the moment, and even rookie drivers in GTEs. And we also have wet weather conditions arriving for those. And we also do say hello to Rhys Saunders there, who says, hello all, thank you for a brilliant season of broadcasting. Best luck to all participants. Thank you, Rhys. It's been an absolute blast here, I can tell you that. And well, it's been great to see you on the grid for the Sunday series as well, and we look forward to seeing what you can do to end this instance at Imola on a high, because of course you had that major high with regards to taking the crown in the Pro Class in Split A on Thursday, taking your first ever sim racing title, as Nathan Anstis there decides to blend in with the sand before tying his way back to the pit lane. But we look forward to seeing what Saunders, indeed all the drivers, can do here in the season finale, because without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, only 10 seconds left on the clock, and Nick Parks is always a man to watch out for, given how quick he has been in the last couple of rounds. Well, here we go to the grid then, ladies and gentlemen. Time is complete, and time is now of the essence for our drivers, as they'll need to see how quickly they can make the way forward before the field settles on down and strategy becomes ever more important for the season finale, round 10 of 10 in the Sunday GT3 Championship Season 17, brought to you by the UK SimRacing community. And so as our drivers make the way onto the grid for the final time this season, this is how they'll line up for round 10 of 10 at the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo e Dino Ferrari. It is Andrea Miatto who takes pole position there for Tata and Restec. Indeed, right now the Elite Championship leader, starting his day on the way he wants to end it as number 1. Rhys Saunders takes his best qualifying points of the season in some time for Altitude 3M Eastwatch, joins him on the front row. Then we will see on row number 2 the combination pair of none other than Henrik Rhys Strand for Beta Frost and DCW Racing's Richard Simnor. On row number 3, it's William Arnesen for Beta Frost, having a bit of difficult qualifying points compared to previous rounds, but he's in the company of Casper Brutner for Old Dudes in Cars Amnesia. Then from the Danishman, it's going to be the Briton of none other than Harvey Wheeler for Three-Wheeler Racing by Phoenix. Sean Connor takes pole position there in the Pro Class for Connor Bros. Brilliant effort from the American driver. He's ahead of Carl Roy, and the 171 driver, 9, all he needs to do is score some points, and he will be pro champion for Mirko Group M Academy, and that's why he's starting second in the pros and 9th on the overall grid. Petro Antonio Pasquarello completes your top 10 there for Tartan Restec, and outside the top 10, start 11th, it's going to be and Matthew Croft for Axis and Sport Z. He's third in Pro, just ahead of your pole sitter in the Interclass of DXT Motorsports is Martin Kenyon. Well done to Martin for that brilliant pole position, his maiden class pole of the season. And then behind him on row 7, it's going to be Max Wheeler for Three-Wheeler Racing by Phoenix, and Steve Hobbs there, one of his best qualifying points of the season for Sim Coach, in 14th. Andrew Montine, the second place into drive, starts 15th there, knowing that he is now de facto into champion. And the Axis and Sport Z drive, we're joined on the 8th row by Darren Sharples for Old Dudes in Cars Midlife Crisis. And he's definitely experiencing a big grid crisis, because we do see the pro pair of Nathan Anstis for UKSimRacing International and DXT Motorsports is Ross Young just behind. And for Anstis right now, he's got to try and find a way to catch up to Sean Connor quickly. Grant Miller starts in 19th for Phoenix Racing, just ahead of Justin Noel, who has made it to the grid, which is great to see. And then we do see Henrik Silka starts in 21st for Old Dudes and Cars Amnesia, ahead of John Ludbrook for GPX Sims for Onyx. And then we do have Nick Parks, the privateer, in the company of the Interdrive of Tom Wheeler for Three-Wheeler Racing by Phoenix on your 12th row. Row 13, it's Eduardo Royes for Axis and Sport White, ahead of his sister team driver, Axis and Sport Z of Ashley Brooks, with Shane Connor and Daniel Pace for Connor Bros and Old Dudes and Cars Amnesia on row 14, and completing your top 30. It's Alexander Vingmark for Beta Frost ahead of Ryan Littermore, who starts 30th. And then last but not least on this grid, ladies and gentlemen, we do see David Young for Logistical Nightmare Racing, ahead of James Connolly for UKSimRacing Herbert, with neither driver setting a valid lap time. But as the formation lap almost comes to a close here, it'd be a crime not to see them all coming down. Long distance view there, but of course they're a long way away right now. But as we look to our circuit side cameras, it's over to Andrea Miatto as he takes them along to the start-finish straight. It's a long wait to the start of this one, ladies and gentlemen, but he will take them there for 60 minutes of racing action when finally the green flag falls. And it's lights out and away we go for our season finale. Then as our drives roar the way down towards turn number 1, as Andrea Miatto leads them all down. Well, you can see there Henrik, Strand and William Arnesen immediately trying to push the way forward. They've had a brilliant start there. Onto the brakes they go. Too wide into turn 1. Miatto safe, but meanwhile William Arnesen, despite the struggles he had in qualifying, he snuck his way and past them all. Moving all the way up there into second place immediately, as meanwhile Rhys Saunders is robbed there, down to 6th place. Casper Bronner all's there through. Cole Roy, he's had a brilliant start. He's moved up into the lead of the pro class, up into 8th. Sean Connor's dropped 2 places back now as they roll their way between the apexes. These drives all know start, at least for now, a little bit of run wide from Roy. That's going to be Pasquarello on the outside of him, in towards the braking zone. Martin Kenyon just behind, so as they come through that hairpin, well, Roy right now finding himself surrounded there, and Pasquarello will get that move done, with Sean Connor right on the back of him, and Matthew Croft also there. Casper Brottenham has got pressure now from the Tartan Reds to Aston Martin as they ascend the hill further back. Andrew Montine, oh goodness me, that's contact between Montine and Parks, and right now Nick Parks turned into the barrier there, and I think there's been a bit of a misunderstanding between the two of them. I don't think any malice was meant, but unfortunately malice has come through in regards to the damage of the car for Nick Parks, and we'll get a replay of that when we can, ladies and gentlemen, as all the field now makes its way into the middle section of the lap. Slow down there for none other than, I do believe, Casper Brotner's had a big slow down penalty for Aqua Minerale, so he's going to drop all the way down there into 11th place as Matthew Croft squeezes his way through just in the nick of time, and he's still glued to the back there, Sean Connor and Kyle Roy, as those drives all continue to make the way down towards Arata, and indeed the 3 pro drives all closely together, with Steve Hobbs a bit further back with Darren Sharples, Rush Young and Nathan Anstis for company. So the pro class right now definitely grouping up there, as we do see Brotner trying to look up the inside of Croft immediately, but way too far back to try and get that move to happen. So after one lap of racing, it's been an exciting one, no doubt about it. It's Andrea Miatto who leads ahead of William Arnesen, followed by Henrik, Rhys, Strand. That's your top 3. 1.2 seconds clear already of Richard Simnor, who sits behind in 4th. Simnor right now bringing Harvey Wheeler, Rhys Saunders and Pietro Antonio Pasquarello behind, but Pasquarello, he's got a gap to that 3-way group, as we see the pro leader Cole Roy right behind, and then it's Sean Connor, Matthew Croft completing your top 10. Outside the top 10, Casper Brotner is a length ahead of Max Wheeler, followed by Martin Kenyon, the inter-leader, and your top 15 is rounded off by Steve Hobbs and Darren Sharples, with Nathan Anstis, where he's had a half-decent start, although he's lost 1 place overall and in class, and therefore now in 17th place here. He's looking to go on the attack once again versus Ross Young. Young's the one who's bound to squeeze on through, and it's going to be the battle of the 2 Porsches here, but the problem is now that he's lost places, how quickly can he regain them? That is not going to be easy, even if you are Nathan Anstis, for the simple reason the fact that around Imola, of course, it is a sprint to every corner sequence, and with those sprints, well, the problem will be you need the absolute best corner exit, otherwise it's just not going to work out. And I think that is going to be the thing that potentially holds him back as time goes on. But as time goes on for him, and meanwhile we do look a little bit further up the order again. Darren Sharples right now feeling under pressure from Ross Young as they roll the way in towards Aqua Minerale. And if anything in the trio of Porsches here, I think Sharples might be the man who right now is putting a bit of a cork in the pace. And Sonny John Ludbrook, well, there's a full Porsche joining this pack. He's the 2nd place runner in the Interclass. And the GPX Sims were Onyx Drives had a brilliant start to his race by comparison. He's going 2 places, got ahead of Grant Miller and Andrew Montaigne. And Montaigne has been the biggest loser if you exclude Nick Parks, who's in the pit lane, and Tom Wheeler, who's fallen all the way back and had a trip to the pits of his own. But otherwise, it has been Montaigne who's really struggled. But to be fair, there's no pressure on him. So right now, the only pressure he puts on himself is how many points can he get for the team's championship aspirations of Axis Sim Sport. But still, that's one of the questions that he'll see this race gradually develop an answer to. As Richard Simnor, meanwhile, well, he's under pressure here as we look back from the rear of the DCW Racing 242. Well, he's only had a couple of podiums this season, a clutch of them. He wants one more to end the season on the high, perhaps. But the problem is he's got to find a 1.8 second gap down to Henrik Rhys Strand first. And also he's got to try and get rid of that Aston Martin behind that. Despite the fact it doesn't have the straight line speed of the Ford Mustang, it's definitely got better cornering speeds. And that is why that car is able to stay with him so well. And it is Harvey Wheeler right now at the helm of that Aston Martin. The number 2, 3, 4 getting very close there, going through Villeneuve. Now, of course, the Concertina effect always makes them look closer than they actually are in terms of relative gap. But you can see that Wheeler's able to take a lot more speed for the chicane. And that is the advantage he's gifted there by his choice of car and his ability to master it. Whereas Richard Simnor, as much as that Ford Mustang loves straight line speed, it does not love corners. And it's a very heavy car through there. Although he can take those curves much more aggressively, that's the upside to driving that car. Nathan Anstis looking for an opportunity versus Ross Young here in towards Piratella. He thinks about it once, he thinks about it twice, but he doesn't get a chance to go for it. And therefore, Anstis right now teeing himself up. But I get the feeling he's trying to give himself more confidence to go for this, in the fact that understandably right now he wants to make sure he finishes third in the championship as a minimum, although he only has 2 points to Sean Connor. Albeit Sean Connor's all the way up in second place in class 9 overall, so that gap is growing, and it's growing some. Ashley Brooks meanwhile serving a slowdown penalty there, losing the place to Hendrik Zilka. Albeit as he burns that slowdown, he completes it before he gets to the auto chicane. So therefore not too much of a loss to the number 192 driver, but knowing he's still got a bit more work to do. And indeed he needs to iron out those small mistakes there, because slowdowns around here, they can cost you a lot of places. And he heads down the hill just behind Shane Connor. He's had a good start, albeit Daniel Pace had an even better start by comparison. 4 places gained to the 2 of Shane Connor, and behind Eduardo Rhys, he's had a bit of a slow start by comparison. He's fallen backwards as the Spaniard, so therefore the 2 Inter drivers right now lead the pro Spaniard around. And as we do see the American drive from Connor Bros looking to stay in the tow. Daniel Pace there just about as I head down that straight. Ross Young, we're still Anstis behind, and if Nathan right now is deciding to play the fuel-saving game, well, he's not doing it that time. Anstis going on the brakes, 2 wide on in, but there's contact between the 2 of them, and in the end, it's going to be Ross Young bouncing his way around. Anstis in the end trying to pull the code to left there to avoid added secondary contact. He had the brakes on, and I think at the last moment realised he couldn't have the brakes on for too much longer as the whole field has come through. Young goes to rejoin the C's part left, right, and centre. That was definitely some early evasiveness there for Andre Bentine. I get the feeling right now that was a get down Mr. President moment from the Axis Sim Sport Z driver. And well, even though he was perhaps a little bit over-exaggerative with his evasive actions, to be fair, he's kept the car absolutely clean, even if he has had off track for it. So Bentine definitely wanted to scratch the car here. And well, the car in a special livery, I do believe it's running gold in it today to commemorate the fact he is your provisional Inter-champion, given the absence of Robert Paunia. And therefore, I don't think right now he wants to get that car scratched. Did they actually invest in full gold on that car, or is that just an imitation gold? Well, either way, it's an expensive paint job on it, and I don't think he wants to damage it too much right now. But meanwhile, Ryan Littleboy, he picks up the pieces where it goes wrong for others. The private in his Ford Mustang. Well, he's up into 8th now in the Inter class, and 26th overall. He was one of the last qualifiers out there, but Nathan Anstis definitely trying to get himself back together. But it's given the place back to Ross Young, although understandably, I think Ross in the heat of the moment is not going to be too impressed about what's happened. Well, I think it definitely was a little bit of a small touch, and in the end it became a much bigger incident as a result. We're going to replay of that shortly. Meanwhile, back to your lead as we go. And as they make the way down, well, there is Andrea Miatto, still very much in control at the very front of the field at the moment. And I think his mindset right now is just keep this pace, don't make any mistakes, as he roars his way into that braking zone for the 5th time of asking. But coming down from left into right here, Arnesen and Strand are glued to the back of him right now. So this is going to be one of those races that strategy is going to become increasingly crucial. Meanwhile, the same can be said for 4th through to 6th here, although you'll notice that Wheeler right now is getting a little bit impatient as he looks to the inside. I think he's eyeing up Simnor here and feels he can make a move. He should not pick the right place to go for it. Now, Aston Martin is looking the quicker car. Rhys Saunders here playing quite compliant behind the LT3M eSports driver, and he's definitely one of those drivers right now that when he's behind you, you've always got to be wary of the fact he will play the game of let's work together up to a point, but even he has his limits. So that's the thing about Rhys. You never know what he's quite thinking until he shows his hand for LT3M eSports. He's got definitely a very good poker face when it comes to driving the car, even though his profile picture there would definitely make you think he's got a good poker face around the table as well. But on his way through turns 9 and 10, well, Pietro Antonio Pasquarello continues to follow, and he is closing up a little bit after being a couple of seconds behind. But the way that SimRacing is gradually backing these guys up is bringing the Aston Martin driver forward. So therefore, he'll be feeling as though right now, after a decent start, he's moved ahead of the pros that out-qualified him. Now he can get into the hunt for a top 5 finish in the elite class and perhaps a few more points to help the team out staying inside the top 10. But as things do settle down for a brief moment, well, we're not going to let the action settle down because we're going to go back in time to look at some replay footage and see what exactly happened earlier in the race. Now, of course, this was at the very start, and this is how it all went green flag. But, of course, watch here, and what you'll notice is the fact that Rhys Saunders held back a little bit versus Andrea Miatto. He's legally allowed to do this, but Strand nailing that race start. He pretty much was, I would say, about 2 or 3 millimetres behind the front end of Saunders' car when he launched. And as a result, he just got away with the perfect start there, and Beta Frost nailed that perfectly. Now, further back, we did see a bit of a compression there. Pietro Antonio Pasquarello having a brilliant race start. A big slide loose there from what was Andrea Miatto, I believe, and that explains why he lost so many places. He had a bit of oversteer there coming through Tamburello, and that's what relegated him down. He wasn't a free wide at that point. Well, this was brave with a little more bit further back there. Oh, there was a bit of contact, and that's what sent Tom Wheeler. Oh, goodness me, Tom Wheeler being caught up there. We didn't catch that. So drama further back there, and that's why Ryan Littlebore also got caught up. So a big bit of drama. This is what it looked like from on board Tom Wheeler's perspective. As he made his way on down, well, on the outside, he's going to try and go for it. I think he's feeling confident in the free wide. He goes to turn in, tiny tap. In the end, it becomes much more exaggerated. The car's sliding along that point. He's trying to hold the brakes. And, well, unfortunately, just sets off a chain reaction of dominoes there. And, well, they all fell. This is what it looked like on board from Ryan Littlemore's perspective. Now, there's Wheeler in front, keep in mind. So Littlemore thinks, right, I'm going to go round to the inside of Parks. But then finds out he can't do so. Everyone backs off. And then, sadly, for Ryan Littlemore, it is Wheeler who comes rolling backwards on. Brakes on there, but trying to get the car to stop. And Ryan Littlemore being the big casualty there, as we also did see Eduardo Roy's being elbowed out. We then had this big moment for Nick Parks with Nathan Anstis coming out to Tosa. They made the way up the hill. Parks went a bit wide there, and as he made his way upwards, a bit of elbows out between himself and Andrea Miatto. In fact, no, it wasn't Nathan Anstis, it was Andrea Miatto he was in contact with there. And well, Nick Parks being turned across the front. I think both of them wanted the middle of the road, and neither one was willing to give way. And we'll talk about that one afterwards, but the Inter, unfortunately, very frustrated at that one with his clasp here. So he had to toast the pits a bit later due to the damage he picked up. That car was crabbing. And then on lap number 2, we have this for the official Inter champion. The Exercise Sport Z driver making his way down for Ravazza 1 into Ravazza 2. Got a bit close to the back there of the 192 Ashley Brooks, and the rear of the car let go. An unconventional incident, but I think he hit the apex curve way too high and the rear suspension dropped aggressively. We did have a total bits for Justin Noel due to an incident in the car. We didn't quite get replay footage of that. Then lap number 4, we had this for Nathan Anstis with Ross Young. So they were side by side. Anstis on the brakes there. Oh, goodness me, that's a really unfortunate one. Now, it's going to be a very hard one for the stewards to pick apart, but something tells me there, we ride on board with Nathan Anstis for this one. I think he's just outbroken himself slightly. Goes in too wide, takes a very tight line, and you can see he can't turn the car any more than that. And, well, Ross Young's thought, I'm going to go around the outside to get the inside. And, well, Anstis has tapped him. Is it a racing instant? Well, that's going to be the big debate there, but an absolutely big moment between them as we come back to your live racing, ladies and gentlemen. Well, as we do so, what's changed since we walked away from the live racing? Not too much, albeit up front the gaps have grown a little bit. William Arnesen, in fact, has lost out in second. Henrik Strand has picked up the pieces, so Arnesen had an off track, but we come back at the prime time here to see Richard Simnor having to get his elbows out because that is Harvey Wheeler looking for a move. And right now, Simnor definitely feeling as though he's building up a queue of cars behind him. And, well, I don't think he's going to try and do his best imitation of the Trudy train today, but the British driver right now definitely finding out the fact that in race trim at least, he's got a lot of cars that are a bit quicker than him here, and that is a big problem for him. Albeit he's not uncomfortable with these situations. Remember the fact, of course, in season 16 it was him and Joe Nathan battling for the spoils at the very front of the field throughout the entirety of the season, and for some rounds literally Joe Nathan breathing down his neck for the entire 60 minutes of racing. And, well, those two were absolutely incredible indeed. If you had two equals from opposite sides of the world, Nathan Freeman from the United States and Simnor from the United Kingdom, you literally had two drives, two different machines, a Ford and a Ferrari, and absolutely inseparable for 10 rounds of racing. It literally was a blockbuster every round. But what you're seeing here is that while Simnor hasn't been able to recreate his blockbuster performances from the previous season, he's right now definitely giving us plenty of entertainment here, trying to keep a long queue of cars behind him. And Harvey Wheeler finding that Rhys Saunders now is perhaps getting closer than he normally was. I wonder if Saunders now is eyeing up a potential move. He thinks about it there. You can see him just putting the car out. in towards Piratella, and then thinking, no, don't do it. Right now, I think he's got the devil on one shoulder and the angel on the other. But change a foot further back. Oh, hold up a second. That's Shane Connor who's gone around into the gravel there. Villeneuve rejoins and will try to rejoin as safely as he can. Understandably, he's got to pick some time to come back onto the circuit. He does it parallel to the racing line as best he can. So no fault there. But as Connor makes one for it, I think there's some damage on that car because that does not look a happy Corvette. We know the Corvette loves understeer, but not like that Tosa. And then up the hill, here comes Alexander Wingmark trying to make a way in. Is he going to be able to beat him on the brakes? The Beta driver tries to. Shane Connor tries to outbrake him. Goes a bit deep there. Wingmark almost follows him. And right now, Alexander Wingmark wants to get the move done. But the problem he's got here is the fact that Shane Connor, well, he's not an easy one to pass by default. But Wingmark at this point, just being in the draft, I think he's got the confidence that he wants to make a move, but he doesn't have the confidence the Porsche is going to give him the move there as he heads on down. And to be fair, Shane Connor now getting himself back on ground. And Connor has been the quicker driver out of the two of them so far today. So in theory, Wingmark will lose out to him as time goes on. That's not to be unfair to the Norwegian driver. Indeed, he's been driving consistently. He's currently in 6th place in class, and he's on course potentially for his best performances of the season if he finishes where he currently is. But coming on down the hill in the pit lane is Daniel Pays. He's been involved in a bit of a problematic moment. Car is being looked at the time, and I do believe it's a long pit stop for Daniel Pace. We'll try and get a replay of that when we can. Meanwhile, hold up a second, there's a change of foot. That is Beta swapping two cars around. That is going to be William Arnesen code for us, going to say, why are we looking at the hairpin at turn number 8? And then Sonny, hello, it's a formation of Beta Frost cars, because William Arnesen moves up into 2nd place, and Richard Simnor, meanwhile, still keeping Wheeler, Saunders, and Pasquarello in place. Carl Rhys on the back of this group now. He's starting to drop Connor and Croft. That's Sean Connor, the other brother from the American family. And as they come down there, you can see the pronounced gap now between Roy and Sean Connor. And I think at this point for Cole Roy, this is going to feel absolutely sweet in terms of he brings it home this win here, because it will be a championship crown if he crowns with a win at Imola, which if you end the season on a win, even though you only need to get a clutch 4 points to become champion, it always feels special there because you've taken on the very best all the way to the very end in your class. To be fair to Sean Connor, the pace that he's brought to the table, he lost out to Carl Roy in the early stages in the opening lap. Still here right now, but he has got Matthew Croft growing as a threat behind him, and then Casper Otter just watches on. Max Wheeler a bit further back there in his own BMW M4. The car, of course, he switched to Monza, the Monza combined circuit, where it really was the temple of speed meets NASCAR, and he gave up his Audi there to go with the top speed. It worked out for him, his best result of the season at the circuit. Since then, he hasn't really been able to recreate that form, and I do know that down the paddock, he has mentioned to a couple of drivers slight regrets there. Should he have changed the BMW to get that one result? And he has been missing his Audi, and he is one of those drivers, and indeed I'm sure there's many of you out there, I'm one of them to be fair, ladies and gentlemen, whereby he prefers to drive the manufacturer on the simulator that he owns in real life. And I do believe he's a big Audi enthusiast. He owns an Audi in real life, and Max Wheeler definitely an Audi fan on the simulator, the Audi R8 Evo 2. But Andrea Miatto, whether he owns an Aston Martin in real life or not, we don't quite know, but we do know the Italian is absolutely running away up front at the moment. 3.3 seconds is the gap. William Arnesen and Henrik Strand still trying to find a way to bring that gap down. Now, how exactly did they lose out to Miatto early on? And this was back on lap number 6. This explains a bit of the story. Now, this was William Arnesen at the time giving chase in towards Acque Minerale. Remember, this was 3 laps ago. It took a lot of apex curve and then touched the grass of the rear left tyre under braking and had to extend the run for Acque Minerale, and that's how he lost out. And Henrik Strand not having the pace by comparison, so as they came back on, well, Strand took the place immediately, but then there was the switch between them a bit later on. But before we come to that, we did, of course, have this one for Shane Connor on lap number 8. So this was your in to drive side by side at the time, battling there with the old dudes in cars, machine number 88. Will make his way on in and went to turn in, a small tap there, sent him around, and with that was into the gravel very quickly for him. That was Daniel Pays down. I think since that tap, Daniel Pays has had to come into the pit lane due to damage to the car. So the Connor Bros driver there, in the end, he won't realise at the time, but his rivals come away just as damaged as he has. In fact, Daniel Pays effectively lost out even more as a result of that contact. And then Connor, of course, did have Wingmark looking for a move, but Wingmark wasn't able to make that move, as we did see on camera. But we then did have the change of what was William Arnesen making his way on past his teammate, and this was after a bit of an error, I believe, of Henrik Strand. In fact, no, he just went deep there by default to give the place back to Arnesen. So I think they feel as though William Arnesen is the driver who can chase down Miatto, and also the fact, of course, he's the only one who can take the crown in the championship, so that's why they're playing that game at the moment. So essentially, given every opportunity to be able to try and potentially take the crown should things work out. Should Miatto have a retirement, for example, from this race, we're not wishing the DNF on anyone, we to point out here, nobody wants a championship to be won via a DNF, although in theory that's the way the elite crown could fall into the hands of Arnesen at this point. He does really need that level of intervention where he's got to be in the right position to take it. And it would be, essentially, he needs to finish at least second to take it or take the win. So therefore, they're going to make sure he's the leading car in chasing down the man at the very front. Still, the leading car of the next pack is none other than Richard Simnor. As 19 minutes of this race soon to come to a close. Indeed, time is absolutely flying us by here at Imola today. Well, right now you can definitely see the fact that gap is not changing. 4 attempts at most. He runs a bit wide there coming out the auto chicane. Now he will pick up an off track for that. He won't pick up a slowdown penalty. He hasn't run wide enough. But of course, he does now know the fact that he is hitting his limits. And the problem is, when the drivers behind see you start to run off track, what do? They normally get closer to you. And it's not just simply because of the fact running wide normally costs you a bit of time, but also the fact if they see you making mistakes, well, number one thing to do, as they say in warfare, don't ever interrupt your opponent whilst they're making a mistake. And the idea is you want to keep pressuring your opponent into making further mistakes, and that's what Harvey Wheel will be doing here. He will not back off at all. He'll stay absolutely glued as long as he can to the back of the all yellow and blue Mustang. And, well, in the three-wheeler racing by Phoenix, try and maintain that pace. That's the other side of the coin. Meanwhile, Kyle Roy, he's over the back of Pietro Antonio Pasquarello right now, and the Vehicle Group N Academy driver. No, he's not really moving forward at this point. In fact, Pasquarello is falling backwards from the 3 elites in front of him, so he might have now started to hit a bit of a limit. I think Roy at this moment might be now starting to consider, how do I get past him as we ride on board here with the Scotsman. Under braking he goes in towards turn number 8, and as he does so, look how close he's getting under braking there. That Corvette absolutely hooked up. As he roars his way up the stretch towards none other than the left-hander that's coming. Well, right now, for the 171 driver here, will he be able to look for a move to Aqua Minerale? The answer is no. He is going to have to stay behind just that little bit longer. I think his mind is definitely much of the feeling that I want to get this move done sooner rather than later, because something tells me right now he's losing some time. And well, with that in mind, Sean Connor and Matthew Croft, they may look quite distant as we look back from the rear of the 171 at the moment. They're not going to look that distant for much longer if he does find that he's losing out. And Pasquarello's pace, to be fair, is slower than the 2 drivers behind Roy, so that is a bit of a complexity in this conundrum. From them, what else is happening elsewhere down the field? Not too much at the moment. In terms of your interleader, it is still very much Martin Kenyon. He's in control for DXD Motorsports and will yet to take a win this season, and ending it on a win definitely would feel quite special to him, and he has had some close company here today in qualifying. He does have John Ludbrook a bit further back. There is Ludbrook. The gap between these two right now, as we look to your class standings, where's a grand total of 8 seconds between Kenyon and Ludbrook, so he seems to be very much in control here. Does Kenyon, and Grant Miller, well, he's currently running 3rd in the class. Miller's pace practically matching Ludbrook, if not surpassed it. So the Phoenix Racing driver, well, he would definitely love to pick his first podium up before the season is said and done. Indeed, Grant Miller has not had a podium this season. He's fished in the top 5 several times, but he's yet to make it onto the steps. But this could be the result that finally sees him break that duck. However, he's still got a long way to go, and a bit of luck to ride, as well as what pace he can bring to the table. So we'll see what he's going to be able to do. Sean Connor, meanwhile, here he is, your 2nd place pro driver, and we'll see Matthew Croft getting a bit closer. The gap between these two narrowing little by little, although something tells me that Croft right now is playing the fuel-saving game here, and this is where Sean Connor finds himself between a rock and a hard place, because on the one hand, he needs to make sure Kyle Roy doesn't get too far away, because if he does, then Matthew Croft will start to get a bit more aggressive, because understandably, as they slide their way for Aqua Minerale, particularly Matthew Croft's Mercedes, that was more sideways than forward there. The man was going completely initial D, while they make the way up towards the auto chicane right now. The problem that Connor does have is, if he doesn't stay close, as Croft there gets a bit cheeky with the wideness of auto, they both do, so they both pick up slowdown penalties, and suddenly, what I was about to say is going to very much come alive. They're now about to give Kyle Roy the best part of about half a second more breathing room to work with, and Roy's not going to waste this, and that's going to give him some space to make sure he stays close to the Aston Martin in front of him and saves the fuel off the back of it. But either way, I don't think Connor can save fuel. Matthew Croft definitely can, but the problem is that gap now is 2 seconds to Roy, and with 2 seconds to be made up in the pit lane, it's a lot harder than making up a single second. I'll tell you that. You've got to save as many minutes as you can in those pit stops. No change with regards to what is Richard Simnor in the battle for 4th place, but what has changed just up the road is Saunders is now ahead of Harvey Wheeler, so they've swapped the places on around, albeit this pack is still very much together. How exactly has that place change happened? Well, we can get a replay to tell you exactly why. or how we should say. Here it is as we go back in time. And well, going for Ravazza 2, Wheeler way too close to the rear there of, I think, Simnor, and as a result, taking a little bit too much speed out the corner, and oversteer came in and bit him hard, and Rhys simply said, thank you, I'll take that one, and I'll move on just like that. But back to your live race we come then. So Harvey Wheeler, I think by getting so close to the back of Simnor, I should say. Simnor and Saunders there, they're not the same name, I promise you. But Harvey Wheeler definitely, I think, just missing sight of his normal acceleration point, and with the dirty air, there was a bit of rear end downforce, and the car snaking around there for Akman Arale. He's got to get himself calmed down a little bit. I think he's pushing himself a bit too hard at the moment, and that's why it's just getting into his head a little bit. But to be fair, this can happen to any driver out there. As he rolls his way over those apexes. Now up towards the next braking zone he will go. As he comes on down, still more places to be found. That's going to be his target at the moment. And we'll see what he's going to be able to do next in terms of making a move on Saunders when we get back in, or whether now it's really going to come down to what will be in the pit stops, which it could be, to be fair, at this point. Might now be thinking, okay, I've lost that one place, but I've got to go into a more strategic stance. Pietro Antonio Pasquarello, well, he's watching on from behind and thinking to himself, okay, how do I get involved? As he now gets in 2 attempts here as they make the way underneath the bridge gantry. So the Tata ResTech driver here, he's taking some confidence in this one. He's been having back and forth in terms of pace, and that's really been the story of his season, the Italian. Of course, missing out at what was VIR in that absolutely climactic conclusion, where it all went to the barrier for him down the backstretch in his battle with William Arnesen at the time. And William Arnesen was allowed to hold on to that win. The two drivers definitely getting very elbows out between each other on a very slippery circuit. Right now, Pasquarello, well, for what was a downturn of pace in the first 15 minutes, he's now having a bit of an upturn here as he gets closer and closer. Had a few pit stops start to play out. Ashley Brooks is into the pit lane, so he's decided to get his pit stop out the way nice and early. He's going for the undercut strategy. Otherwise, everyone is practically staying out there at the moment. As we do show you the number of pit stops that drivers have completed in the time tower. And as you can see, very few have actually made pit stops. Ashley Brooks is going to be your... Well, no, he's still being serviced there. In fact, the car waiting up on the jacks. And in fact, he's got a long time to go. But as we look to Ross Young in the meantime, he's still got Nathan Anstis for close company. And Nathan Anstis has been stuck behind this man since the start of the race. Even after their contact, Nathan Anstis has made sure not to gain the place off of him. And therefore, these two Porsche drivers right now running nose to tail. Knowing this race has not gone right for either of them after that moment that happened at Tamburello. But now for Ross Young, can he keep Anstis behind for the remainder of the race? He'll feel very impressed with himself if he's able to do so. But of course, this is not the way they've wanted the race to go. They were both targeting the top 5 in the Pro class today. And sadly now, they're battling to be right towards the back end of the top 10. Pit stop complete for Ashley Brooks. He's come all the way down in 26th place. Now we should point out the man ahead of him, David Young. It will say that he is pitted. And when did David Young pit? Well, he started from the pit lane. So Young has not actually pitted at the moment. So do consider that one stop there for David Young and Arata. And therefore, it does mean that Ashley Brooks is the man that everyone's going to be keeping an eye on in terms of do you come out ahead of him. Although Brooks, to be fair, was quite far down when he did pit. So therefore, they're going to be feeling relatively safe. Meanwhile, that's not going to feel safe at all here for Harvey Wheeler, as Pasquarello within a 10th there as he made his way into the braking zone for Villeneuve. But of course, he can get close. It's one thing to catch, it's another thing to pass, as the late great Murray Walker once said. That's exactly what they're experiencing. As Eduardo Rhys and Nathan Anstis are both into the pit lane as well. So pit stops are starting to play out. But as these drivers come up the hill, Shane Connor, meanwhile, has had a bit of a moment. He's back into the gravel again. That is at Villeneuve for the second time for the Connor Pro driver, I believe. And where is that car going? In fact, is that Villeneuve? I'm not 100% certain. It is. No, that is Ravazza 2 he's coming into there. So, the Connor Pro driver has found himself to the gravel a second time today, but a different part of the circuit this time around. And, well, how exactly has he got there? And the answer, well, let's provide it to you, ladies and gentlemen. So this was Shane Connor making his way on down the hill in the number 55. And as he did so, make his way from the right-hand kink into the left-hander. Went a bit wide on entry there. I think he might have just dipped the right-hand side tyres onto the curb and then subsequently a slight touch of the grass and reversed the car into the gravel there to get it off of racing line. But of course, once you start reversal gravel, the car is going to slide. So back to your live racing we come. For Shane Connor, definitely a moment that he won't be too pleased with, because now he's cost himself even more time. But back to Richard Simnor. The halfway point of this race, inches closer every lap we turn. Right now, Simnor still in control here. More pit stops still playing out for these drivers. 2 many more minutes before we will see probably quite an exodus of drivers into the pit lane, depending on how long the fuel tank can go. But Richard Simnott, Rhys Saunders, they are still very much together. Harvey Wheeler, he's definitely lost out a little bit in that group. And then Pietro Antonio Pasquarello is really now starting to push the three-wheeler racing by Phoenix driver as much as he can. But Henrik Zilka's into the pit lane as well. So Zilka comes on in, and he will be dropping down from 18th place overall. So we are starting to see some drivers inside the top 20 opt to get themselves off circuit. As we do have not a drive-through, a slowdown penalty for none other than Richard Simnott, which he'll have to serve, because of course if he doesn't, it will be converted into a drive-through penalty. And this is where Rhys Saunders tries to go for a move, but Simnott off racing line. It gives him the defensive line towards Piratella. Saunders says, right, I'm going to go for this now. I've got to get this done. There'll be two wide coming down into Aqua Minerale. But will Saunders get ahead? Yes, he will. Simnott does not decide to make it too wide all the way through. And well, I think there, Richard Simnott realising that he had to give it up at some point. But Rhys Saunders having to be bold and brave to make that move happen. And he does now, heading in towards the outer chicane. How quickly can Saunders pull away? Can he now show that he's got the pace advantage? And well, I think the exit of the chicane there shows it, already gaining 2/10 of quarter exit, and that's going to give him a lot of comfort now coming down the hill. Of course, Simnott having to battle with Saunders has now brought Wheeler and Pasquarello right onto the back of him. There you can see Pietro Pasquarello taking a look up the inside, but it's all for naught as he tries to outbrake his fellow Aston Martin. But then Wheeler just stays glued to the back of Simnott's car and does not flinch. And well, that's exactly why he's able to stay in this group as they go on to another lap. Where Rhys Saunders with perhaps a pivotal pass, but he does bring Simnott along with him now as they make their way down the start for this straight. You can see there going through the foreground of the camera shot was Henrik Strand, 3 seconds up the road. Strand has definitely lost Arnesen in all of this, but Arnesen in turn to Miatto, the gap is 4.1 seconds. So the gaps are gradually growing. Further back, there is Matthew Croft still on the back of Sean Connor. Right now, the 155 driver making sure that Matthew Croft cannot get close in order to be able to make a move, and rolling the way out for Tembrello. Well, the Mercedes right now definitely looking as though it's bursting for an opportunity. And Croft under braking. There's the confidence he had. It is on brake and corner entry. That is where Croft is so much stronger. But meanwhile, change of position potentially here coming out of Tosa. That is going to be Pasquarello on the inside. Harvey Wheeler there right now on the outside line. Looking to switch back to the inside for Piratella. Get the move under braking in return here. The answer is no. He's going to stay behind. We ride aboard the dashboard here, and we see a face for the Tata Redstep car right in front of us. They come down the hill. Carl Roy still watching on this from behind. The leading pro driver here, 6/10 behind, and he knows all the fighting they're putting on. That's going to bring Sean Connor and Matthew Croft closer to him, so you want them to end the fighting as quickly as they started. Harvey Wheeler in the end, he's not quite close enough to carry on the fighting towards the auto chicanes. He's going to have to sit back, relax and watch in the meantime. But of course, he's now got to think to himself, right, full fuel saving mode. We've got to try and find a way strategically to get back ahead. So as we take the off board and leave behind. Meanwhile, Carl Roy, he has not been able to leave his rivals behind. In fact, he's now going to have his pro rivals close up to him very quickly because he's got a slowdown penalty for track limits to the auto chicane. He'll have to serve that within 25 to 30 seconds of it being awarded. Does so, but we'll try and burn as much as possible on entry into the Ravazza bend, so that way he doesn't lose as much speed on the straight. And indeed he does so absolutely perfectly there, so he does lose time. Sean Connor is definitely within the toe distance here, but Carl Roy, I think he will just about be safe here coming in towards Tamburello, or is he going to be? The answer is yes, just about 3/10 is the gap as they make their way onto the break, so Roy timing it to perfection, and that's what he needs. In the Inns class, meanwhile, as our top three of pros stay close together, Martin Kenyon still in control. As we see Steve Hobbs in the rear of the picture, he's enjoyed a good run in full for pro. And you've got John Ludbrook here, currently second of the Inter drivers, having left Grant Miller behind for a bit. But on that lap, a 42.85 for Ludbrook. Meanwhile, for Miller, a 42.80. So Miller was a little bit quicker to the nearest 100th, but not too much between these two. Grant Miller right now definitely keeping Ludbrook honest. And Andrew Montaigne is flying behind. The man, of course, caught up in that contact with Nick Parks on the opening lap. Well, suddenly, running in full for the man in the Inter class, but the pace he's showing here, he was half a second quicker than both Ludbrook and Miller last time around. I think Andrew Montaigne here is looking for redemption before this day is done. And remember, every point he secures here, well, he's already champion by default with the absence of Robin Pownier, but right now I think he wants to end his season on the podium if he can. All the way for Tosa Bends. The clouds definitely come over quite thick here. We're not expecting any rain today as far as I'm aware. Well, definitely goes a bit dark there, and well, that's not your TV screen, ladies and gents. Although if you are finding your pictures a bit dark, you can always up the brightness. We won't be changing the exposure on our cameras, thinking that all preset around the circuit, but understandably those clouds definitely darkening things, and that's why we're seeing a few headlights go on these cars, with daytime running lights perhaps. Sean Connor and Matthew Croft still together, and Croft right now thinking about getting involved. as we ride on board with the Exodus Sport Z driver. And definitely we get involved here as we have a new fastest lap of the race, a 41.074 for Andrea Miatto, your elite and overall leader. He is continuing to raise the pace up front, and William Arnesen responds with a 41.090. But here in our pictures right now, Matthew Croft, the closest he's been for some time, but a 10th there through turn 1, immediately lifting off there. So Croft's game plan right now is strategy. He thinks that he can beat Connor and Roy by strategy, or at least beat the Aston Martin in front of him and then go after Kyle Roy. So I think he feels he's got the pace, but he's also got the fuel strategy for that Mercedes, which of course this car a bit thirstier compared to the Aston Martin 6.3 litre V8 naturally aspirated versus the 4.4 litre V8 that's turbo supplemented for Sean Connor's Aston Martin. The Mercedes engine in there, by the way, if you're curious, where it does hail from, not a British engine. The last of the British engines in the racing Aston Martins dating back to the DBR9 GT1, or the infamous what was V12 engine that was then translated into, if my memory serves me correctly, the Aston Martin Vantage V12 that did race in GT3 racing all the way up to 2016. The absolute screamer of a 6-litre engine, and it was translated over into a V8 instead for economy and efficiency. Indeed, the arrival of turbos in modern GT3 cars, particularly in the late 10s and also the early 20s, really been heralded by the Acura NSX, whereby its 3.5 litre V6 engine with the twin turbo supplement, it was discovered that you could achieve very similar fuel efficiency and race pace through the introduction of air-induced turbo rather than having to go naturally aspirated, and it's made the cars much more efficient. And then BMW, of course, like Rhys Saunders' BMW M4 Evo, really popularising that brand. And then suddenly we have seen the arrival of turbos in the form of the likes of the Ferrari 296 as well. And well, we haven't quite seen the end of the naturally aspirated era, but we are definitely seeing more and more cars introducing turbos alongside their engines in order to achieve much more efficient performance on the car. But as Rhys Saunders makes his way on through right now, knowing he's broken away from Richard Simnor, his target of Henrik Strand, is it reachable? Well, Strand at the moment, the last lap was 3 tenths faster over lap. The average lap delta is appearing to be about 1.5 tenths between these two in the favour of the Beta Frost driver, so it does seem as though Strand right now may be running himself in a very comfortable third place, albeit he would like to catch up to the top 2 in front of him. William Arnesen, meanwhile, on that previous lap, definitely did not have a good lap. He was a whole 1.5 seconds slower than Andrea Miatto, and also 1.2 seconds slower than his teammate at Strand. And I do wonder whether there's a bit of traffic that perhaps intervenes there. Of course, if he does come up behind lap down cars or cars that he's going to put a lap on, the thesis is they could either step aside, as we do see there, Eduardo Royes do so, although there's no expectation for him to do so because he picks himself up a slowdown as a result of that, although he has been very respecting the blue flags. But the expectation is the lap down car, or the car that is to go a lap down, is to drive predictably and on the racing line and not fight the lead lap driver. The lead lap driver has the responsibility of overtaking in a safe manner, so therefore all the requirement is on the lead lap driver to make the move. But meanwhile, a move to the pits there for Alexander Vinmark. He comes on in from at the time what was 20th place, indeed running still in 5th place in the class, albeit I do believe we have got some pit lane activity going on for him, and well, the man he's going to try and beat is Shane Connor, who's already taken a trip to the pit lane. But Vinmark is leaving the pits right now. There he goes, but it is a very long pit lane here at the Imola Circuit, so therefore is he going to come out ahead of Shane Connor? I think the answer is going to be yes. He does have Conan past there, Nick Parks, who is a lap down at this rate. So Vinmark definitely looking for a top 5 here today in the interclass. This could be some magic coming his way, because in the end Shane Connor's still not visible on picture, and Vinmark comes out 24th, 5th in class, and now doesn't have to come into the pits ever again, hopefully, unless of course he's been a naughty boy and in the end it does pick up what will be a drive-through penalty for instant points. Martin Kenyon comes in for the lead of the interclass then, so this is the important one for DXT Motorsports. Do they get it right at the pit? More car being serviced, as meanwhile John Ludbrook carries on. So does Grant Miller. They decide to go a little bit deeper into this race. The gap, however, was quite comfortable. It was 8 seconds into the pits for Kenyon over Ludbrook, and I don't think that's going to be assailable through strategy. But has John Ludbrook got anything left in the tank here? Can he pull off some magic? Meanwhile, speaking of magic here, well, it does not take the wave of a wand to potentially see a move from Matthew Croft, or does it? Well, he doesn't go for it there, but that is very close to Piratella at this point. I think Sean Connor's thinking, when is that move coming? And Croft right now is going to keep us all guessing until the end of the day. Kyle Roy, we just cleared Nick Parks going in towards Aqua Minerale, so that's worked out for him in terms of where he's caught and passed the lap down into driver. Roy, your pro leader, still keeping himself in control there, and he's right on the back of Wheeler, Pasquarello and Simnor right now, and Richard Simnor Well, again, we look back through his Ford Mustang, and this time it's a similar picture, albeit it's an Aston Martin there, not a BMW. But hold the phone, because we've got a change of position potentially coming in, or have we? No, it's Leicester 10th there. Croft is absolutely glued to the back of Sean Connors. They both got the inside of Parks coming down the hill in towards Ravazza, but Matthew Croft right now, well, I thought he was going to go for a move there, because all we saw in our time tells the fact he was with a 10th. The camera flashed over to him, and suddenly the 113 driver right now, where Croft is not coming in yet, he is really playing the biggest game of don't reveal your hand until the very end of the fuel tank, because Casper Brotner makes his way in from 12th place off camera, but I probably should look at my contact booth window. He's coming on down pit row. Max Wheeler wasn't too far ahead of him, so Wheeler's going to be given a bit of a break, but here's all going to be for naught. Will Brotner be able to find a way to outsmart his fellow elite driver at the end of the race? That's to be seen and plenty more, but right now your top 15, we are starting to see more pit stops. Steve Hobbs comes in, and it's been a good opening stint here for the Sim Coach driver in the 116, and well, he's on course here for a 4th place in the class, and that's going to be one of his best results of the season. But look at this right now. Sean Cotter, you've got to feel for the Cotter Bros driver. He is being used as the proverbial bulldozer here by Matthew Croft. Matthew Croft is really showing to him how much pace he's got in that Mercedes, and he's saying to Sean, look, I'm going to stay behind you. I'm saving fuel here. I do not really care about Kyle at the moment. I'll beat him once I get ahead of you in the second stint. Instead, you're going to act as the guy who clears all the traffic for me. And I think Sean Connor right now, if he is in a position to do so, he needs to think about pitting, because he will then throw Matthew Croft off strategy slightly, because what he'll suddenly say to the Mercedes driver is, no, you're not going to be given a free fuel saving. You're going to have to fight your way through traffic. But Sean Connor right now, if this carries on the way it's going, he's going to lose out massively here, unless he's been doing a huge amount of fuel saving of his own. But right now, Matthew Croft, we would predict, is going to leap Sean Connor in the pit lane, and in fact get quite close to Kyle Roy. Now, Roy has been doing some fuel saving off the back of the elite pack in front of him when he's been close enough to it, but the problem is he has gradually lost out to them every so often, and that's just seen him fall a little bit further back. Harvey Wheeler just in front. In fact, Harvey Wheeler has been passed in recent history. As into the pits comes Kyle Roy. Harvey Wheeler carries on. Meanwhile, Cotter and Croft, they're both into the pit lane here. Matthew Croft gets very close to the back of his rival into the pit limiter line, but in the end, they all managed to avoid touching each other. But this is going to be the moment of truth now, with regards to who's exactly nailed it on strategy. Has Kyle Roy done enough here to come back out the leader of the pros, or will Croft surprise everybody here? And what will Sean Connor do? Will he be all right to be ahead of them or not? Well, meanwhile, in the pits there goes William Arnesen. Henrik Strand, he's about to go. Richard Simnor, he gets ready to leave, but will he be allowed to go? Yes, he does. Pasquarello right behind him then. Sean Connor still being serviced. Kyle Roy leaves his box. Matthew Croft now starts to leave, and he leaves Sean Connor in the dust. We thought that was going to happen, and Sean Connor loses out there on pit stops. He falls back to third in Pro now, so Croft clears him, but how much goes into Kyle Roy? There's Roy, there is Croft, and then Sean Connor. Well, the gap at the end has practically doubled for Sean Connor to Croft. Meanwhile, Croft is now within 2 seconds of Kyle Roy, so they've spread out a little bit, and Kyle Roy, to be fair to him, he's been doing a lot of fuel saving. He had the quickest pit stop of them all, and I wonder right now whether the Miracle Group M Academy driver is perhaps doing this intentionally. Wonder whether perhaps he's underfueled the car by about half a lap or so, and he's going to save the fuel to get to the end, but he prioritise track position and a comfortable outlap here to get those tyres reheated. It is a valid strategy, to be fair, to underfuel the car by design. And remember, the deeper you go into a race, the lighter the car is by default, so therefore less mass being pushed around. You are using less fuel towards the end of the race, only by minuscule amounts, to be fair, compared to how the car is at the start, but a lighter car means you do naturally quicker laps. You complete the lap faster, and therefore you are moving less weight with the fuel you have. But as Roy makes his way down the hill, well, Matthew Croft right now knows at this point it is really all about him trying to catch this man down. Can he do so? Can he spoil what will be the crown jewel in a championship crown for Kyle Roy? And can Croft end his season on a high and potentially still third place away from Nathan Anstis? Because remember, Anstis is looking vulnerable to this man, and there he is right now down in 7th place in Pro, 20th overall. But our last pit stops are playing out here. As leaving the pits is Andrea Miatto. He sends himself on his way one last time today. Rhys Saunders still being serviced, as is Harvey Wheeler. Where is William Arnesen? Here he is. Saunders has completed his pit stop. We look to the blimp camera, so therefore you'll get a bigger view here of what's going on. He passes Wheeler, and meanwhile Rhys Saunders still coming out the pit lane. How close are they to each other? Well, I don't quite see them there, but that's Rhys Saunders, and side by side that's going to be Henrik Strand, who just comes out ahead of Saunders. So Saunders in the end does a very good job of the strategy. Meanwhile, Richard Simmel clears Wheeler, and he clears Pasquarello as well. And Harvey Wheeler gets back ahead of the Tata Restic driver. So Pasquarello, this has not worked out for at all. So Wheeler's back into 6th place, but Richard Simmel has just cleared both of them. So Saunders is safe in 4th now. He can hunt down the podium if he's got the pace to do so. But Harvey Wheeler and Pietro Antonio Pasquarello, well, I can imagine for the 2-2-3 drivers, we do ride on board of him for a brief moment. There might have been a few swear words from Pasquarello in wondering how on earth Wheeler has leapt back ahead of him. And, well, the answer to that is simply put the fact it has come down to the pit stop time. It has been 1.5 seconds extra for Pasquarello, and given how hard he had to push to find his way back ahead of Harvey Wheeler, well, Harvey Wheeler now has been able to beat him on strategy, and that's the thing for Harvey. He's just simply played the game of, if I can't beat them on the road, I'll beat them in the pit lane instead. So therefore they're going to be locked in for the rest of this race. But in terms of how things have changed, have all your pit stops complete now, this race is definitely going to be on track until the very end. Andrea Miatto, your leader, the championship leader in the elite class, well, if he's able to bring this home, he would tie up the number of wins per driver in the elite class with William Arnesen, but most importantly for him, he would be your provisional elite champion. William Arnesen, meanwhile, currently 2nd in elite, and that's indicative of where he is in the championship for Beta Frost. With a 2-2-2 driver, 6.5 seconds behind Miatto, does not have the pace to match him, but is there going to be a situation in this second stint where we suddenly see the shoes swap around here, and William Arnesen puts his best foot forward as he normally does in the second stint and finds a way to bring the gap down to Miatto on pace? Well, if he's going to do it today, it's 7 seconds. It is not the customary 3 or 4 seconds we have seen. It's practically 2/3, not double that. That is not going to be easy to bring down here over 16.5 minutes or so. Henrik Strand sits in 3rd. Elite and overall, and the Ford Mustang driver right now knows it's got Rhys Saunders getting closer and closer. The Beta Frost driver has fallen away from his teammate, and Saunders, ever since he's been able to clear what was that battle for fall through to 7th, he's now been unleashed here, and I get the feeling the Altitude Freedom Esports driver has not used anywhere near as much tyre as he would have if he'd been in clear air since the start of the race. So he's going to be one who's definitely going to be feeling as though he might be able to steal away the bottom step of the podium, but how much closer could he get to Arnesen after that if he does so? Well, first thing first, he's got to pass Henrik Strand, but even before that, he's got to get close enough to him. That's not going to be easy in that BMW versus the Ford Mustang, because of course the BMW, a bit of a power car, although it has slightly better handling characteristics, but it does have a very slidey rear end to it in the Evo package. A lot more rotation, and that's exactly what he's got to try and maximise the use of. Richard Simmel runs 5th at the moment. The DCW Racing driver just ahead of Harvey Wheeler and Pietro Antonio Pasquarello. It's still there behind. And you'll see that queue of drivers together here, but Wheeler jumping ahead of Pasquarello, and for Harvey Wheeler right now will definitely have none other than what will be the car of Tom Wheeler in front of him, and he'll be hoping this three-wheeler racing by Phoenix teammate and fellow family member will be able to step aside and perhaps give him a bit of a comfortable ride and perhaps be a bit of an inconvenience there for Pasquarello, but I think he's going to let them both go now that he's come off racing line. Otherwise it would be perhaps frowned upon a little bit here. You can see Pasquarello immediately having the headlights on, flashing his headlights. He knows what's up there, and in the end I think Tom Wheeler definitely thinks to himself, you know what, I best not do anything cheeky just in case, because you'd understand the Tata Racing driver, he would be pretty much going to the stewards room straight after the race and saying, well, that is team tactics being used against me. But to be fair to three-wheeler racing by Phoenix, they're a very fair team there, and well, they're never going to play the first card wherever they can. But as they make the way up towards turn number 2, you can see the Pasquarello right now trying to get all the traffic out of his way, as that is going to be Tom Wheeler passing David Young there. A bit of an opportunist was the three-wheeler racing by Phoenix driver, as he makes his way past Alexander Wingmark, who's going very slowly. Now, what exactly has happened to Wingmark? He's losing places hand over fist here. I think he's had a bit of a moment through the chicane, and he's recently just rejoined, but he's just dropped down to 8th place at Inter, so suddenly he's lost out a load of places. We thought he might have lost out versus Shane Connor, but not like this. And where exactly did it go wrong for Wingmark? The answer is, it's all in this replay. So this was Wingmark making his way up the inside of Ryan Littlewood to put a lap on him. Went onto the brakes here for Tamburello. Went deep, hit the sausage curbs there at turn number 3, and the car was turned on around. And that explains how he lost out to Shane Connor. Indeed, all the group then, what was looking to be his best result of the season, has now been left in the dust. And that's very unfortunate for Wingmark. An easy mistake to make, but such a costly one at that. But as he brings himself back together and now sees what he can do for the remainder of the distance, well, we do look back to John Ludbrook here, currently running in 2nd of your Inters, and Andrew Montine has leapt his way past Grant Miller. I believe that was on strategy, he was able to clear him, and right now it does seem as though Montine still on the march here. Can he go a bit further before this is over? In fact, he did pass Grant Miller on the road. We're going to replay that shortly, as that's a lot of dust being kicked up in the air there by somebody. I wonder if someone's had a bit of an off, but Andrew Montine right now, well, he wants that 2nd place back, and Ludbrook sliding all over the place. They're coming out back Winter Island. Montine looks the inside. This is going to be back on the brakes here into the auto chicane. He's on there. No, not quite. Andrew Miatto thinks about it and thinks twice. We ride on board here looking down over the front of the number 7. And right now, definitely close. Itching for a potential move. But of course, beating the Porsche on the brakes. That is going to be David versus Goliath under braking. 17's got so much more confidence in the car, and under braking, you see that as they roll the way down the hill. A little bit trying to get himself back together, but I think he might have just scratched some heat into the tyres that he doesn't necessarily want with that big slide. And well, now Montaigne coming out of the corner. Traction out of lower speed corner is the priority of the Porsche. The McLaren not as quick on traction, and that's why that gap has opened up a little bit initially. But now 2.5 tenths they cross that timing line. It is going to come down little by little. A little even more so. Looks the inside there in towards Tamburello, but way too far back to go for it. So therefore, look, it doesn't need to be feeling threatened. Andrew Montaigne, therefore, now tries to get a better run here. Direction change for McLaren strength. Look how good a run it is for Montaigne. Surely this has got to be a go down towards Villeneuve. He's going to look up the inside here. Decides to go onto the brakes. Gets his nose in. Gets Ludbrook to run a little bit deep. Now looking around the outside. Ludbrook goes defensive. Montaigne goes to the switchback. It's not going to work, but looking into Tosa now. Sees the doors open again. Does he lunge out of the inside? Ludbrook gives it the space. And in here, it's going to be too wide for the apex. And Andrew Montaigne making a move there. Ludbrook gives him all the space today to do so. And I think for John Ludbrook, he might be thinking about the bigger picture here, which is I can't beat him for second, but I can definitely make sure I stay with him for third today. And Andrew Montaigne right now moves another place upwards. And to be fair, he doesn't need to do anything other than finish this race. And he definitely will be your provincial inter-champion for this season. But if Montaigne's going to be champion, he's going to do it in style. And the best way to do it, of course, is making it worth his while by being on that podium and see if he can chase down Martin Kenyon. Now, of course, at this point, well, it's going to be one of the situations whereby for DXT Motorsports, they're going to be willing this man on. He does have, well, it's a 10.5 second gap to Andrew Montaigne. Montaign's pace on the last couple of laps, when he hasn't been battling with John Ludbrook, he has been faster by half a second a lap. But for Martin Kenyon right now, half a second a lap, given the amount of time remaining, if we do the mental mathematics here, you're looking at about 6 more laps to go, including the one that our leaders are about to go on to. And understandably, for Martin Kenyon, he will be very much safe. So he just needs to stay out of trouble here. He doesn't need to make any mistakes. He does that. This is going to be his first and only win in the Interclass this season. But my goodness, this is going to be one of his best drives of the season so far. And indeed, for seasons to come, I suspect, given the English driver here has been absolutely faultless today. But from here, we have had a change. Henrik Strand has been passed here by Rhys Saunders. In fact, that's William Arnesen has fallen back to him. It's all going a bit backwards here for Beta-Ross whilst we were glossing over the battles in the Interclass. Well, we've had change of foot here, and that is not a battle we've expected to unfold. But suddenly here comes another move from Saunders. Can he make a move with William Arnesen? It's all to go and play for here in the fight for what will be second place on that elite podium. And for Rhys Saunders right now, well, understandably, he wants to try and steal what will be the points of Henrik Strand and potentially finish third in the elite championship. So he's going to absolutely go for it as much as he can. And right now, William Arnesen, he does not look comfortable at all in that Mercedes. I think something's gone wrong for Arnesen. I think he's gone off the circuit because that is looking as though the Beta-Frost driver here right now is saying this car is giving me nothing other than misery. And well, Rhys Saunders, he knows how to pile on the misery. When you are struggling, he will put you under that pressure until you give way. But Arnesen getting the better exit, and this is where the Mercedes does feel safe. It is able to pull away from where's the 6-cylinder turbo-powered BMW engine. And making the way on down there, right now the absolutely giga grill of the G82 M4 is not going to be able to find a way in. Saunders looks around the lunge, but he's just too far back there. But this is releasing his element right now. He's toying, he's like a puppeteer, literally trying to pull the strings here. And William Arnesen slides loose there, coming through Tamburello. Here comes Saunders looking up the inside. He's going to go all in for it here under braking into Villeneuve. Saunders gets the nose in half a car. This contact, they touch. Arnesen goes straight on there. He rejoins, but it will be a slowdown penalty there. Contact between the two. Arnesen not too happy about it whatsoever. And as they make the way up in the toast to Ben Carr round. Oh, hold up a second. Who's that? Who's that sideways there? Is that Matthew Croft pointing sideways? No, it's not. It's a different car entirely. Not quite sure which one. We'll have to find out. I think that was actually Brooks there pointing in the wrong direction. I think he has been towed to the pit lane. And with so, that's drama. And indeed, everyone just able to avoid that. Goodness, it's all kicked off in such short notice. And well, as Richard Simler heads on down the hill, right now Harvey Wheeler right there with him, still trying to keep what is Wheeler behind him with Pasquarello falling backwards. For goodness me, we're going to need to try and understand everything that's happened there in a very short order of time. And thankfully, through the power of replays, we'll be able to do so, ladies and gentlemen. But have we got a bit of a breather here to be able to do so? That's the question. We don't want to miss if anything else happens. I think we are not quite safe at the moment because Harvey Wheeler there gets a really good run coming out of Walter. 2.5 tenths now. Heading down towards Ravazza here in the three-wheeler race by Felix Driver. Well, the problem is for all that quarter exit speed. You can see that Ford Mustang has just got the leg slightly. as they come down the hill into the braking zone. So Wheeler stays behind just for a little bit longer. Can he get a good run out of Ratson 2? The answer is not quite. We can see Simnor's Ford Mustang is able to bolt away and run out the stable. It does so. Meanwhile, at the end of the long straight, Rhys is almost there as he comes behind our gantry camera. Well, we can see there, Strand a bit further back. Arnesen figured out a move here. He signals it very early, but in the end, Saunders just simply says, we're going to be close on that. I'm not falling for that one. But you can see Arnesen look at the run through Tamburello. That is a monster run from William Arnesen. And right now, Saunders goes defensive there, puts the car to the middle of the road. Arnesen follows him one way, then the other. He's trying to keep the pressure onto Saunders, but Saunders right now doesn't feel that pressure. Meanwhile, Harvey Wheeler here running on the back of Richard Simnor through the chicane. Is he going to be able to make a move here into braking? No, he is not. But with that, we are going to take a quick look back in time and see exactly how Rhys Saunders found his way ahead of the Beta Frost drivers. First, this was on Henrik Strand. So as they made their way out to the chicane, Strand there, making his way past Ryan Littlemore's car, and Saunders in the end just ducked to the inside into Ravazza 1, came from quite far back, but he put the first class stamp on that one and sent it. So one move made by Saunders. Strand tried to come back at him, but that did not quite work. Then we had this off track for William Arnesen. This was heading down towards turn number 2, and as he did so here, something tells me he's going to pull the car way too far to the right under braking. Yes, he did. Oh, it snatched on him. Snatched twice. He almost got it under control, and that is how Rhys Saunders caught up so quickly, and it was a mistake from William Arnesen. And Arnesen right now, well, losing out like that, and then we did see the battle between the two of them, and it was actually Brooks who gone around, but in the end, Rhys Saunders went on the attack, and well, this was only moments later, of course. This was actually Brooks getting it wrong, as he did rejoin. He'd gone off at Villeneuve, and then he came on, and then we did see the Saunders and none other than Arnesen moment, and well, that's how it all played out. But Brooks lost the rear of the car, and thankfully it got parked in the middle of the road. That's what happened between, oh goodness me, there was contact there. That is Richard Simnor tapping with Brooks's car just as it's about to be towed, so that explains why Richard Simnor might be struggling with the car right now. And then to take a look back at how we saw the contact between Saunders and Arnesen, well, this was Arnesen sliding over the place there, and as they made the way under braking, was there a touch between them? It's so hard to tell. That camera angle does not help us whatsoever. I'm going to reserve judgment, ladies and gentlemen. If there was a touch, there definitely was here. I think Arnesen rejoining. I think that Saunders wouldn't be as close. But in the end, well, good on them to all avoid the side of his car of actually Brooks there. But if there was a touch between Arnesen and Saunders, it was minuscule. But at the same time, small touches like that definitely have big consequences sometimes. And right now, 6 minutes left to go. There's still plenty more fight in this race. We are not done and dusted yet. And Saunders and Arnesen right now, I want to tell you one thing, they have suddenly found all life in this one. And for Rhys, well, he's definitely put his boxing gloves here today. He is going fighting every step of the way. Andrea Miatto, 11.6 seconds up the road. I think right now for Saunders, that's irrelevant. All he cares about at this point in time is making sure he finishes ahead of Arnesen. And if he does so, in terms of the championship permutations, given the fact that Saunders came into this round, what was 34 points behind, it would not be enough for him to be able to steal that third place away. He would still finish in fourth, and it would be Henrik Rhys Strand who finished in third. Arnesen would be second, and Andrea Miatto would comfortably be your elite champion. But right now, Saunders just going for every place he can and starting to pull away from Arnesen there as these tries come through. Meanwhile, looking back to the Matthew Croft-Sean Connor battle, well, after Matthew Croft left Sean Connor in the pit lane, suddenly Cole Roy has left them both in the dust, and Croft now finds himself under pressure from Connor here. So this has been a reversal of fortune to these drivers. Croft has not had any off tracks as far as we're aware. It's just that his pace has started to dip little by little, and Kyle Roy has been lapping a couple of times faster a lap, and that's enabled the gap to grow gradually. So that's really the delta here. Sean Connor right now in the draft as they make the way down. As they do, well, is he going to be able to look for a move here in towards Tamburello this time? Gut feeling says no here, again how far back he is. Max Wheeler, meanwhile, a bit further back there, we do see the three-wheeler racing by Phoenix driver, and well, the 233 still on the march here, and well, understand three-wheeler racing by Phoenix Machine, looking good there, and I do believe that's a slightly new livery on the car as well. I do love that in the monochromatic black, silver and white, and well, if they're experimenting with new liveries for the seasons ahead, it's definitely a very stylistic one to go with, and indeed, it's going to captivate a lot of hearts. But meanwhile, speaking of battle that's going to captivate hearts further down the order, this is Shane Connor battling with Alexander Wingmark, fighting for 7th place in Inter. So Connor's had to make another pit stop, or in fact, no, he's not. He's made a mistake on circuit. That's what seen them swap around. I do apologise for misinformation. right now. Shane Connor on the attack here, but Ving might hold on. The only problem is, look who's behind them. That is the interleader here, and if you are Martin Kenyon, well, you don't want any of these guys the way he goes up the inside there, and well, understandably, Connor's not going to be too impressed about this because he does want what is no interruption to his battle with Vingmark, but when it's the class leader who's putting a lap on you, you're going to have to give some ground. Oh, there's contact, and that is Martin Kenyon into the barrier. Kenyon's into the wall here, the DXT Motorsports car. Surely it's not over. Andrew Mateen takes the lead of the Interclass, and Kenyon has had to toe to the pit lane. I don't believe it. For DXT Motorsports, they're going to be absolutely fuming in the pit lane after that one. And well, we'll have to get replayed that if we can. Andrew Mateen, it's as though all the dominoes are falling into place, and it's Robin Powney being on a holiday alternatively right now. Martin Kenyon being sent to the gravel at Pirotella. For Andrew Mateen, everything is looking absolutely green right now. As we say hello to DXT Rob there in the YouTube chat, who said earlier on, come on Martin, end the season on a high. But right now, well, I think they're going to be heads in hand in the DXT Motorsports garage. That is not the high they wanted whatsoever. And once again, sending Kenyon all the way down the order. And suddenly, John Ludbrook, who was looking to be holding on to the bottom step of the Interpodium, is now going to be looking at the second step instead, as we've had a moment for William Arnesen. Surely not Arnesen. Arnesen's so to pit lane as well. I don't believe it. What's going on right at the end of this race? Suddenly, Rhys Saunders up in the second. Henrik Strand goes to third. And well, for William Arnesen at this point, I do believe he still will be your runner-up in the Elite Championship, all said and done. But Rhys Saunders, understandably now, with that second, Henrik Strand will be guaranteed the third place spot regardless. But I think something's gone wrong for Arnesen's car again. And it is absolutely crazy how this is all playing out. But as all he tries to carry on, we do say hello to James Bostock there in the YouTube chat as well, who does say that Rob jinxed Martin. And well, here's still Sean Cotter looking to try and make a move on Matthew Croft. He's still waited 2 minutes left on the clock. He tries to head up the hill. Well, is there going to be a change this time? I don't think so, but what we will quickly do is show you what happened to Martin Kenyon and also to William Arnesen. And here's a quick pair of replays, ladies and gentlemen. So this was Martin Kenyon making his way up the hill, and as they did so, well, Shane Connor behind came across there, and well, under braking, it was a tap to the rear there, and I think Shane Connor may have just missed his braking point just slightly and sent Kenyon straight on, and given how close the cars were, in the end that will be a more pronounced contact. Then William Arnesen, this is what happened to him. He was right behind Rhys Saunders going in towards the middle of the chicane. Only moments later, went through turn 5 fine, took turn 6 way too on the sausage curb, went out wide, and then just pulled the car off. I wonder if he picked up a black flag for track limits. I think he's hit the instant point count, and in the end, he's decided to tow. And, well, that is his race in arrears there. And for William Arnesen, that is disaster. And I do believe it was a black flag there, unless I'm mistaken, although we'll never quite truly find out, unless that sausage curb broke the suspension, which he could have, to be fair to him, and he may have needed to come into the pit lane for repair work. But as all these drivers carry on, well, 1 minute left to go. And for Andrea Miatto, I think we are going to get a 36th lap in. We are on lap 35, but he is midway through this lap. He has comfortably got time to finish it. And with Rhys Saunders 11.6 seconds behind at the moment, I think Andrea Miatto is definitely not going to have to worry here whether he does this lap as his final one or the next one. Got a bit of traffic in front of him, but he'll take his time picking his way past it. But this race has given it as taken. And whilst we may not have had as many drives as we have had in previous rounds, to be fair, we have definitely had plenty of excitement here in the Imola Circuit that's kept us guessing all the way to the end. But the last battle, we definitely have questions over. Croft versus Cotter. And, well, the warning lights there coming on the back of Matthew Croft's car. That's him leaning into the ABS cone for Minerale. 10 seconds on the clock very shortly. There is your leader. Are we going another lap here? Surely we are. We're not going to be... There is the white flag. We can confirm it. So we are going a 36th lap here. We will get one more tour of Imola, but next time around on home soil for Andrea Miatto, this is going to be a championship crown that he's been under so much pressure to bring home since round number 6. Indeed, the pressure has been huge, but hold up a second. It's huge here in the pit lane. Richard Simler hasn't got the fuel to go a 36th lap. I don't believe it. Is anybody else here going to be caught out here? We were so close to not seeing a 36th lap. I think some drivers are fueled for 35. Well, Simler's one of them, and suddenly Harvey Wheeler takes 4th place in the elite class, and Pietro Pasquarello will round off that top 5 at this point. But is anybody else here going to need a quick splash and dash? Well, not Kyle Roy. He's banked on there being 36 laps here. Meanwhile, Andrew Mateen, he's still got to cover through. But will he come through before coming to the pits with John Ludbrook 4.2 seconds behind? And the answer is going to be, is it a duck to the pit lane? No, it's not. So he carries on. John Ludbrook does the same here. But right now, with this one lap between all of these drivers and the curtain falling on this season, cars in the pit lane are plenty. Martin Kenyon's one being looked at by the team, and indeed a gutting month for him, as many are saying in the YouTube chat there for Andrea Miatto. Of course, it is now only 4 corners before a dream becomes a reality here as he hops his way between the curves. And what a season it has been for this man. And well, Beta Roster kept him honest every step of the way, and Henrik Strand, the only Beta Roster car in the elite class, still running now given that the retirement of William Arnesen. But they have thrown everything at this season to try and stay with Andrea Miatto. Yes, there have been moments where it's been elbows out racing. Yes, there's been moments where the pressure seems to have gotten to him. But to be fair to the Tata Restic driver, if you're going to be champion in the elite class, you're going to do it at your home circuit. Andrea Miatto, you are our provisional elite champion here as he crosses the line. Your winner today at the Imola Grand Prix circuit. What an end to the season for him. Absolutely faultless here today. Rhys Saunders will come home runner-up here in the elite class today and seal the deal for will be 4th in the elite championship ahead of Henrik Strand, who completes the podium there. Harvey Wheeler comes through for one of his best drivers of the season in 4th ahead of Pietro Antonio Pasquarello. But look at this, ladies and gentlemen, for Carl Roy. All he needed was a clutch of points. He wins at Imola for Miracle Group M Academy, and he is your pro champion. What a brilliant season for the Scotsman. Absolutely in control. Matthew Croft, runner-up just ahead of Sean Cotter. Sean Cotter will be your runner-up in the Pro Championship. And then Andrew Martin will very shortly make his way out the final few corners. We've just had Casper Brotner and Richard Simnor finish their races with Max Wheeler ahead of them. But right now, for Andrew Martin, he knew it was his crown to take today, given the absence of Robin Pownier. But he made sure he did not just settle for second best. No, the Axis is what Z Drive proves he is the best in the class by winning in the season finale. Although commiserations to Martin Kenyon, of course. And John Ludbrook takes his best result of the season, a second place in Inter for GPX for Onyx, 13th overall. And then we've got a bit of time before we see our next drivers come to line. But Grant Miller, he has finished a lap down, but he finally sees the Inter podium in the final round of the season. The Phoenix Racing driver, that smile with his profile picture, I can imagine right now it's going to be double the size of the grin when he finds out he's on the podium here today. Just ahead of Tom Wheeler, David Young and Alexander Vingmark. And well, to finish the racing, ladies and gentlemen, we come to Nathan Anstis. And well, for the UKSimRacing Ministry driver, it is going to be 7th place. And it does mean in the Pro class, he will be 3rd place in the Pro Championship. Not the way he's waited his season to end, given his performances midway through. But for the UKSimRacing driver, well, it's the way sometimes the cookie crumbles, but he hasn't crumbled to finish this season. As meanwhile, Nick Parts, come on, Nick, get to the finish line. That car's out of fuel. I think he can do it, ladies and gentlemen. Let's believe, given the power of dreams, he tries to inch his way through. He's almost there. Can he make it? Come on, Nick, you're almost there. Literally 10 metres to go, and not much further to see the finish of your season. He does make it at the end of the Pro Tier, ladies and gentlemen. 9th, sadly, in the Interclass today. Not the podium he's been chasing all season, but to be fair to him, he's had a good season in the number 35, and he does end things there. But as we do see a couple of cars being pushed on around, and it does look as though the all-gold Axis and What Z cars, have they taken the Teams Championship? We're not 100% certain at the moment. We'll give you an update on that when we can, but they all crawl along, and right now they are pushing this man along, most importantly, of Andre Martin, celebrating the fact he is your inter-provisional champion. As Andrea Miatto parks up meanwhile, and the Tartan Red Stick driver decides to do some donuts here for the home crowd. And well, he'll be absolutely ecstatic about this. And indeed, he's had an incredible season, but goodness me, has he been pushed the distance by his rivals. Beta Frost have really been the main contenders versus him, but he's also had some huge performances to deal with. The likes of Max Wheeler, of course, none other than a podium finisher at Monza, trying to keep him honest, as well as others. But as they all call him down, ladies and gentlemen, it has been an incredible season for Finale race round, no doubt about that. And with that, let's take a look at those race results, subject to any stewards' inquiries. And so, as we can see, after 60 minutes and a final lap in round 10 of 10 of the UKSimRacing Sunday GT3 Championship Season 17, brought to you by none other than SimRacing International, here today from the Autodromo Enzo Dino Ferrari, Andrea Miatto, your winner in the end for Tartan Redstech, and taking that victory by 12 seconds over Rhys Saunders. And for Miatto, well, he was in control from the very start, took that pole position and never looked back. And well, Beta Ross fell by the wayside in the end, but the Altitude 3M Esports driver of Rhys Saunders, he may have started in second place and fell all the way back to 6th, but he was never going to be denied his right to be on the podium and be runner-up. 3 seconds behind him, Henrik Strand there for Beta Frost, making sure he's rounded off his time on the steps of the podium, and he will be 3rd place in Elite Championship. And well, the Beta Frost driver there, Indian, couldn't quite take a candle to Saunders, but to be fair, he fended off Harvey Wheeler at the end, and the three-wheeler racing by Phoenix driver, 4th place there, and 9th state. In the thick of the fighting for the top 5, he's definitely earned those points. Pietro Antonio Pasquarello, well, he'll be very happy with the 5th place finish there, elite and overall for Tartan Restec. But no, today it was around much like his season, up and down, seesaw motion. And indeed, the Italian driver right now will be pleased to see that his teammate has taken the victory and he's contributed some very valuable points to their existence in the top 10 of the team's championship. Kyle Roy, winner in Pro, 6th overall on the road for Miracle Group M Academy, and is your provisional Pro champion there and ends the season on a win. He didn't need it. All he needed was 13th or higher, but in the end, he has taken the top step. He controlled the race ahead of Matthew Croft and Sean Connor, who enjoyed a brilliant strategic battle between the two of them, with Croft just getting the upper hand by leaping his rival in the pit lane, and the Exodus Sports Z driver only what was 4 attempts ahead of the Connor Bros driver at the finish line. And it was Max Wheeler in 9th place there for three-wheeler racing by Phoenix, 4 seconds clear of Casper Rotner, who chased him all the way through the race, but the old dudes in cars amnesia drive couldn't quite find a way to catch up. Richard Simler was best the rest in length after having to go for a splash and dash right at the finish there for DCW Racing, expecting only 35 laps and not the 36th. Unfortunate for him, he definitely was a big defender today and he put on some brilliant moments. And then we did see Andrew Montine at 12th on the overall road, but for him, the Inter win and the guarantee that he is your Inter champion this season for Axis and Sports Z. He was 5 seconds ahead of John Ludebrook, who kept him honest over the distance, but Andrew Montine, of course, had to go on that big recovery drive after a slow start to his race and also contact with none other than what was Nick Parks in the early stages. The GPX Sims for Onyx driver John Ludbrook then takes his best result of the season, second on the Inter podium. He was ahead of Darren Sharples and Steve Holtz, who completed your top 15. And then it was Henrik Zilka and Nathan Anstis, your last lead lap finishers there, 16th and 17th. A lap down, Ross Young first and foremost of DXT Motorsports after his contact with Nathan Anstis. In the end, Anstis was able to get the upper hand, but indeed both drivers there, we'll talk about that one afterwards. And we saw Grant Miller round off his season with his first podium of the season, the Interclass, 19th overall for Phoenix Racing there, and he'll be absolutely pleased as punch with that. Eduardo Roy's 20th there, and the Axis in Sport wide driver just ahead at the finish line of Tom Wheeler, with a three-wheeler racing by Phoenix driver almost back on the podium, but it wasn't to be today. And David Young there coming from a pit lane start all the way to 5th in the Interclass. Well, that's going to put a big smile on his face there for Logistical Nightmare Racing. Alexander Vinmark missed out on top 5 in the Interclass, but given how things went and that big spin he saw in the gravel, where he'll be pleased with the fact he did recover in the end, albeit perhaps not pleased with the fact he threw away a top 5. And then we did see none other than Shane Connor just behind him for Connor Bros, and it was 2 laps down to Ryan Littlemore. Sadly, we did have a few retirements that began with William Arnesen, but he will be classified as a finisher there. A retirement once again on what was the closing laps of the race due to what was an off-track at the Villeneuve chicane, and Just Noah as well retiring 3 laps in the end. Martin Kenyon with that shunt in towards Peritella between himself and Shane Connor saw what could have been his chance of his first win of the season in Interclass end up in the barriers, and very unfortunate for him. You've got to feel for Martin Kenyon for DXT Motorsports, who's been chasing those podiums this season. His form has come so far as the season has gone on, but denied with only 4 laps between him and the finish line. Nick Parks in the end behind him as well, and with 29th ahead of Ashley Brooks, and they will all be classified as finishers before we come to those retirees who will not. Starting with Daniel Pace, 31st ahead of James Conley, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is how the field has finished, with James Conley sadly not starting this race for UKSimRacing Herbert due to technical difficulties. Then to the individual class finisher positions we do go, as this is where the points are made and paid, and here we can see in Elite it was Andrea Miatto, your winner in the end for Tartan Restec driver, absolutely in control, with Rhys Saunders picking his way past the Beta Frost crew to make it into 2nd place. The GT3 Esports driver was 3 seconds clear of Henrik Strand, and the Beta Frost driver in the end making sure there's Beta Frost representation on the podium, but it wasn't the 2-3 the team were targeting, and it does mean I do believe that Axis SimSport will have taken the team's crown as a result of the way the points have fallen. Harvey Wheeler, 4th there for three-wheeler racing by Phoenix, ahead of Pietro Antonio Pasquarello, who ran off the top 5, and then we did see Max Wheeler, Casper Rotner, and Richard Simler complete those who finished on the lead lap, and retirees, but they will be classified as finishers. William Arnesen, your run-up in the Elite Championship, ahead of Justin Noel. Then we come to the Pro class, and here we can see one name led the way today, Kyle Roy. And what a day for the Miracle Group M Academy drive. 4.2 seconds clear of Matthew Croft. Not his most dominant performance of the season, but to be fair, he controlled the narrative of this race, saved the fuel when he needed to in the first stint, and in the second stint just gradually pulled away. For Matthew Croft, he threw everything at this one to try and take the top step, but in the end earned the second step instead. The Exodus Sports Z driver making sure to outsmart Sean Connor on strategy, but the Connor Bros driver was never too far behind at the finish line. Darren Sharples, a further, what was the best part there, of 31 seconds behind, and the old dudes in cars midlife crisis driver in the end realising that his day was all about making sure that Steve Hobbs couldn't get close, and so the Simcoach drive round off the top 5 ahead of Hendrik Zilka, with Nathan Anstis the last lead lap finisher there in 7th. Ross Young and Eduardo Royce were both a lap down, and then it was Ashley Brooks who, after that late spin towards the end, had to tow the car to the pit lane, and indeed that's where it stayed to the very end in 10th place. Then to the Interclass, last but by no means least, and here we can see Andrew Montine for Axis SimSport Z, your winner by 5 seconds over John Lodbrok, and it was back and forth between the two of them. But of course, this is not representative of the retirement of Martin Kenyon, with only what was 4 laps to finish, and indeed all of them inheriting the positions and including the win for Andrea Miatto, but he will be your inter-champion either way. Grant Miller, he was the first to be a lap down, but still on the podium for the first time this season. The Phoenix Racing driver will be happy with that, and he put together a very podium-worthy performance ahead of Tom Wheeler, and then we saw David Young round off the top 5 there. Alexander Vingmont was 6th ahead of Shane Connor, and it was 2 laps down to Ryan Littlewood, who never gave up, to be fair, even when things were going wrong. He's earned some valuable points ahead of Martin Kenyon and Nick Parks, who retired but will be classified as finishers, down to 10th place. Then we did see a non-finish for Daniel Pays, no points earned for the old dudes in cars amnesia driver, and a non-start for James Conley for UKSimRacing Herbert. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our rundown of the finishing positions, and at this point I would normally say it's about time for us to wrap up. This was a post-round broadcast, but of course, because we are live from circuit side, what we're going to do instead is we're going to take a breather for about 5 minutes, and then we're going to be back for post-round interviews with our volunteer drivers. So don't go anywhere, because we're going to be catching up with some of our drivers, perhaps even some of our champions, and get to hear what they've got to say about today, indeed the season as a whole. So stay with us. We'll be back in approximately 5 minutes' time. And it's lights out and away we go for our season opener as Sardply gets a good start, but look alongside him and you'll see there Milton Tomlinson Dennis immediately go on the attack into the braking zone. 1 drive into the grass already, that's Mikey Story, but 3 wide they come into the opening corner. That's a bold move there. William Humphrey makes the place as they make the way through in towards turn number 2. I think the Altitude 3M esports driver here might just be fancying his chances once again as they come into the braking zone now for turn number 1, and as they make the way from right into left, well, Hayden Miller here side by side with him. They'll go all the way through to turn number 3, and Saunders does take the place there. That's for overall position, not for pro position. Saunders is the pro leader, but he goes a bit deep there at 3 to the inside of 4 then, and Miller right now enjoying this. Saunders enjoying it. A little bit of rub and contact between the two of them, but nothing wrong with a bit of bump and grind between the two Ford, for the Ford and the Corvette, the 2 Americans I should say. And
with those 2 Evo drivers in front of them, they're just, they're realistically in a completely different race. They're just a barrier up towards the likes of Rubino and Wendell. Oh, there's Rubino going off the road, and here comes James Bostock, past 1, past 2. This is a great little move from James.
Oh, and look behind him as well. Hardiak, up high. He decides to come back down low. But Denny Plurger has really lost a lot of ground here. He's lost 7 places since the start of this race in that green Porsche. But look at this, for the lead. Hammond wants it. He's gone back down the inside. He got off the brakes again to let the car down the inside of Rob Mackay. And you said Rob was going to be clinging on at the front. And now he's clinging on to second. Great move by Lewis Hammond. Really good committed stuff. And look, down the inside, Richard White. He wants a piece of this in the Porsche. He's got James Bostock.
And it's lights out and away we go here as Mirko Bortolotti goes exactly on the green, and as they roar the way down towards turn number 1, Martin Statman side by side with him, but look behind, Tim Perry under pressure, Miguel Leon immediately as the Inosis Esports driver tries to put the pressure on. Further back we've got 3, 4 wide, they're all in the crush as they come through the opening bay. Look back for the rear of your second place runner, Statman, and Statman right now for the Gazex Racing team. What he's trying to do here, I think now, is just hold on to second, and if needed, he may have to act as a bit of a buffer and perhaps sacrifice a little bit of his race for the race leader here, although Bortolotti, to be fair, I think might be holding some pace back. But here comes Lux in the tow in towards what we roller coaster they come with the Virginian corkscrew. It's left into right very quickly here as they both make the way, and it's 2 wide on entry, but Lux gets ahead. It's up into second now, as it will be Martin Statman falling down to 3rd, but Callum Lux does clear another one, and now only 1 car is between him and an opportunity of victory here, which is Perry going to make the move, or I'm going to have to make the move for him? Well, there's your answer. Perry's going to go on the inside here of Dean into the braking zone. Edwards gets to watch it from the popcorn seat view. Perry there being 2 wide on exit. Dean's going to try and hang around the outside. Does Edwards think about going up the inside as well? He gets himself ready for it in case there's contact, but there's not. Perry there being fair. Dean tucks back in behind. Lovely move there from Tim Perry. And I think meanwhile Beardsworth will hope they don't get close up in time, as Beardsworth's going to look up the inside. He goes all in, and it's from very far back. He gets it stopped, however, and Beardsworth there nails the move, but Tillerson's going to come back at him up the hill. Does he go in on the brakes here? This is bold to do it on the inside. No, he does not. And Brian Beardsworth, the end, he gets it wrong. He goes out wide at turn number 6. Tillerson's going to be 2 wide with him, but 2 wide they're going to turn 7. Tillerson goes on the switchback there. 9 is no way through, and in the end they come down towards turn number 8. Well, there Tillerson backs off. He lets Hutchinson go around the outside, but is it the right call? Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is time to kick off our post-round interviews. And we are going to be going to firstly none other than our Inter-champion. As he joins me now in the interview room, it is the man, the myth, the legend. It's Andrea Miatto. Andre, good evening to you. And what a season it's been for yourself. But most importantly for yourself, you are our Inter-champion, good sir. How does that feel?
Oh, hi, Paul. Yeah, it's bloody brilliant, I'll tell you. I came into this season not expecting anything, and it's from the start. I was just picking up good positions and then got my first win. That was unexpected, and I just kept going. So I had a brilliant battle with Craig at times, with Martin, with Robin as well. It was a shame that Robin couldn't be here to join in the fight at the end. But yeah, it's been a brilliant season. Bits of ups and downs. Obviously, Portimao was a bit of a rough race for me, as well as the Nürburgring, I think it was, or was that Thursday? I can't remember. But yeah, overall, I think it's probably been my best season to date. So that's brilliant. I'm very, very pleased with the result.
Oh, 100%. You deserve to be pleased with it. It has been a phenomenal season from yourself. And coming into this round, of course, no real pressure on yourself because of Robin not being able to attend, but still some pressure on with regards to the team's championship. I presume you come into this round today thinking to yourself, right, it doesn't matter what I do for myself, I need to prioritise what the team gets in terms of points.
Yep, absolutely, yeah. So I was happy to get P2 in quali because it was good points. And then after lap 1, I just completely lost it all because I lost it in turn 1 and then had a bit of an incident. Then I think in the lap 2 I was backwards, which wasn't great, to say the least. Then after that, I didn't say a word for the whole race and just put my head down and try and get positions back to get as many points to make sure we don't lose P1. And in the end, I somehow ended up with a win. I was not expecting that, given I was backwards at the end of lap 2. It was obviously with a lot of misfortune from Martin. It was absolutely gutting seeing him get taken out at the end, unfortunately. He absolutely deserved that win. But yeah, it's great for the team as well. We've been close so many times to winning a title, and it's just finally all come together for us to be able to get one, so it's brilliant. I know Matt as well is really chuffed because he's had a rough season as well, and to be able to finish it on a high and bring home the team's title is brilliant for him as well.
Oh, fantastic. I mean, it's happy scenes all round for yourself and the team, and we will be bringing your teammates in very shortly, but just staying with a focus on yourself for a little bit longer. Of course, like you say, you've had one of the seasons where there's been ups, there's been downs, there's been a lot of progression as well. What do you think was the turning point for your season where you really felt as though, right, I am on course for this crown now, excluding Robin not being here today, of course, but earlier on, yourself, you've also had none other than Craig Hewlett right in the thick of it, although bad luck in some respects has taken him out of the title fight. But what for you was the moment where it really came across to you as though, you know, this is going to be my crown?
I think it probably was at Daytona in the monsoon rain. It was I went into it with 0 rain practice, obviously quite a bit of practice from the 24-hour that was just the weekend before, but no rain practice. I just went into it and hoped for the best, and it somehow ended up bringing home the win in that race. And I was like, if I can survive that, I think I can go through anything this season and try and bring it home. And then after that, yeah, it was a good run of form for me. And then, yeah, as you say, Craig was close, and Martin and Robin as well, and had a great fight for the season. And yeah, it was just, any of us could have won it at some points, to be fair. It took one mistake from one of us and it would have gone the other way. So it's, yeah.
Oh, 100%. I mean, things could have gone one way or the other, but Daytona, such a powerful moment because of the monsoon conditions, and in the end, really cementing your drive towards the championship. And perhaps coming on to today a little bit more, what exactly went wrong at the start from your perspective? Because it must have been, well, the worst start we've seen from you all season.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Turn 1, got through it quite well, and then I was on the outside. I can't remember who. I think it was Steve Hobbs. I just put the power down in the back end, just left me. I went on holiday. So after that, I was just fighting to keep the car going in the right direction. Got overtaken by everyone. Got up to Tosa. Got the car under some sort of stable condition, and then had a bit of door banging with Nick, and unfortunately ended up with Nick having some heavy damage. And luckily I managed to get away from that somehow. Got back onto the pack, and then was just about to overtake Ash into turn 1 to try and make up some positions, and ended up just dropping it in a way I've never dropped it before at this track, which was again fantastic. And yeah, I don't know, it's definitely my worst start, and I'll need to learn from it, but yeah.
Well, one to learn from, no doubt about that, but it does seem as though in the end things did come back your way in the end. And just sort of looking towards the very end, a great recovery drive from yourself, but this circuit is such a challenging circuit to overtake at as well.
Yeah, absolutely. There's, you have to really put together the moves a couple of corners beforehand before you make them. You can't just send it up the inside of the corners. You have to force them to go off the racing line and go slower into the next corners. You have to really make them work for it, or else you're just not going to get past, because it's so easy to just close the door or run you out wide and lose a lot of time. So yeah, it's definitely lost a lot of time fighting John. He messaged me after the race saying, "Oh, sorry if I cost you anything." I was like, "It's alright, mate. You're fighting for P2. I know it's, I know I'm fighting for the title, but you're just as entitled to it as well." It's difficult fights, but you know, it's one of the most rewarding tracks to get overtakes done as well. Like, you know, when you put together that perfect overtake, you're just setting it up for 3 corners before you actually do it. It's just so satisfying when you get it right and finally get past them.
Oh, 100%. And the great thing is you got things absolutely spot on today and nailed it in the end. And you didn't need to score any points. You could become champion either way, but you ended it on a win, albeit perhaps aided, like you say, with the misfortune for Martin Kenyon. But a big tick in the box with regards to your inter-champion status. And if you just hold fire for a couple of seconds, we're going to bring your 2 teammates in now of Matthew Croft and Ashley Brooks to talk about that team's crown. And so, ladies and gentlemen, and now joining myself and Andre in the interview room as well, we do have Matthew Croft and Ashley Brooks join. Gentlemen, welcome to you both as well. We've had our one-to-one time with Andre, but we wanted to bring you guys in for the picnic party here. Firstly, teams champions, Axis Sim Sport Z. I mean, you had an advantage today, but advantages, they don't last long in this series. Matthew, if we come to yourself first, I mean, you've been pushing incredibly hard today for the pro win. Second, big points coming your way, but I get the thing you were a bit gutted not to see yourself on the top step.
Yeah, massively gutted. The amount of effort I put in for that race just to get to second place, fuel saving behind Sean the whole first stint. I just would try my best to get as far up as possible, and I come out the pits, I think it was 2 or 3 seconds in front of Sean because the amount of fuel I'd managed to save. I was right up the back of Kyle. Traffic started coming in. I was thinking, here we go. This is it. I'm going to take an opportunity. And I think I got within a second of him, 0.9, 0.6 or whatever it was. I can't remember seeing it. And then what was it? Turn 2, turn 3. There's gravel absolutely everywhere, and I didn't take it into account. I just went through it as fast as I could. Lost the whole front end, like the Merc does, understeered off the track, and bumped the wall on the way through. And I thought, my God, he was right there. 4 laps to go, and he was slowing down as well because I think he destroyed his tyres. A cover, it's pretty heavy on tyres, so I so close, and the results have just come out as well, and turns out I'm going to stay in 4th. I'm 8 points away from Nathan as well, so staying in 4th, and God, so close. If I'd have got him, I'd have got that 3rd place. I'd have won that race, and I got the 3rd place in the championship, but wasn't meant to be. But what a hell of a season, especially for us at Axis. I mean, we just worked so hard, and Andre's done. He's done all right, He could have been better, Andre. Come on, man. No, what a season! What a hell of a season! It was brilliant. I hope you enjoyed the gold liveries at the end there.
Oh, 100%. I was going to ask about that. So the gold liveries were in celebration then of the team's championship and perhaps Andre's achievements?
Oh yeah, too right. Yeah, Ash was furiously on his computer today, just trying to change it all over to gold, weren't you, mate?
I was indeed, mate. I was indeed.
Oh, brilliant. Well, Ashley, coming to yourself, I mean, today, gold liveries on the car, but perhaps, I don't mean to make a part of this, but not a golden day for yourself in terms of the way things have gone at Imola.
Imola's not my track. Absolutely struggled from the get-go. Enjoyed a bit of battling, and then just didn't go to plan. I'm just really pleased with the way Andre's driven all season, Mr. Crofty. I've just made them look good on track, and they've done pretty much all the hard work and carried me to it.
Yeah, but it's a complete team effort, mate. Complete team effort. I mean, if you've had a bad race, or one of us has had a bad race, and you're struggling, we'll pit the car, and that person will be a spotter for the other 2 drivers, helping them out, telling them what the fuel is, telling them what the car, the front, behind. It's not, nobody just gives up and leaves. We all work together, and it's been brilliant. The team's worked really hard for it.
Yeah,
Oh, 100%. A massive team effort from all of you, and well, the liveries have been looking absolutely dashing as well, I have to say, Ashley. And in terms of individual aspirations, if we do just come to yourself first, Ashley, I mean, in the Pro Championship this season, things haven't necessarily gone your way, but I get the feeling the undercurrent's always been, if Andre and Matthew are both absolutely doing it at the front, you've always got to be there in the background, not just to provide deliveries, but also to be there if one of them doesn't pick up the points. You've got to keep the consistency.
That's it, really. So my strong tracks where I should have been doing well, picking up better points than the lads, I just got involved in silly incidents. The races that Crofty struggled with in pro class, I managed to pick up the necessary points,
Yeah,
even
done it
after
a
a
couple
poor
of times.
drive for myself. So it's like having the mentality from the lads: don't quit, just stay involved, pick up the points where we need them.
Yeah, I think
Thank you.
after I had a massive incident in VIR, you took loads of points, which saved us really. And I had another big incident in Miami, and you had a good result there. So one of us doesn't do well, the other one picks the points up, and it's just that consistency all season. Yeah, it's worked together really well.
The team's come a long way. Obviously, me, Crofty joined middle of last year, and the team's just gone from strength to strength. We're all helping each other. A lot of plans for the future. So, I'm hoping it's a start for Axis to show themselves how competitive we can be.
Oh, without a doubt. And in terms of future plans, that nicely brings us on to a bit of a segue there. So, for yourself, Teams Champions this season, plus also Inter Championship crown for Andre, and for yourself, Matthew, in the end, just missing out on third in the Pro Championship, but you definitely were one of the contenders all the way up to around about round 7. What's next? Can we expect you three back on the grid for season 18, looking to go for the titles across the board, or are you looking at the Thursday series? What is the plan?
Oh yeah, I mean the full team's going for some of them Thursdays, some of them Sunday. I mean I was out and about with the family the other day, and I just got a text from Ash saying, "I've signed you up for Sunday, mate." And I'm like, "Oh, okay then." I'm racing, am I? So yeah, we're coming back again Sunday. I think it's teams of 2, isn't it, on Sunday? So
Yes.
me and Ash. I don't know. Are you doing Sunday, Andre?
Yeah, me and Craig are going to team up next season.
You and Craig, yeah, Craig's, bless him, he's had a fantastic season this season, but he's just been so unlucky, hasn't he? He just,
Absolutely, yeah.
honestly, every other race, he's always there at the top, and it's just one little mistake or one little tussle with somebody. He's been running the season. So you two next season are going to absolutely fly. I think me and Ash are going to struggle a bit because we're going to be in the top split, because there's only
You're
3
in
splits
elite,
now.
I'm in pro, so look, we've already discussed that it's going to be maximum effort, training, testing, make sure we're in the right cars, get our consistency up.
Yep.
So it should be a good season.
Yeah, hopefully we can keep this momentum going, and some of our own private events at the Sebring 12 in a couple of weeks, we're all doing that, and Nürburgring next week, or next Saturday, and we're going to keep on doing all the endurances, but keep on doing the league. But we're having the guys at Sim Coach, one of our sponsors. We're having a few group sessions next week, and one-to-ones the week after. So we'll keep pushing, we keep developing, we keep going.
Oh, fantastic. Plenty of development, and it's so good to hear that you guys are, on board and bringing all the teams and bringing the business to the Thursday and the Sunday grids, even if Ashley's signing everyone up before they've even agreed to be signed up. But to be fair, that's the way to do it. Throw yourselves into the deep end. And I guess the last question I do have for each of you is, before obviously the obvious, is anyone to give a shout out to? If there's one thing, starting with yourself, Andrea, if there's one thing you've learned from this season which is going to take you from Inter to the next class, what is it?
It's probably like the importance of like putting a lot of practice into races and stuff. In my previous seasons, I've had decent pace and stuff, but there was always up and down between the races. And this season, I've been able to put more time and practice in before every race, and I think that's really helped me push forward and improve my lap times and improve my consistency. So hopefully, I'll be able to carry that into next season and fight for it again. Yeah.
Well, fair play. And then coming to yourself, Ashley?
My massive shout out is mainly to Andre, Matthew, and Craig. They've blew my mind this season, just watching the pace, the racecraft, the consistency, the effort that they put in, and then Axis as a whole group. It's grown from strength to strength since I've been there, so really positive place to be, and looking forward to the future with them.
That's not what he asked.
Well, fair play. And anything you think you've improved upon this season that you carry forward next time, or if there's nothing, absolutely fair.
For me now, I think I've obviously swapped rigs and had issues with my last PC, so hoping next year, come back nice and clean, work on the consistency, more focused, and not giving up. It's been a rough season this season, so we'll grow strength to strength.
Oh, fair. And for yourself, Matthew, because of course, you argue on paper you have been one of our quickest drivers in the pro class. It's just not worked out.
It's just I forgot. Just my luck's terrible. Hence why I chose number 13, because my luck is absolutely terrible. It just never comes right for me. And I don't know if you can remember season 8. PC turned off halfway through the last race. I was leading and everything, and I had points to win the championship. But PC turned off, and ever since then, there's been a little thing. Every other race, a little thing happens, and it's just holding me back. So, hopefully, I get one day. I get a season where it's just clean, easy sailing. I just put my foot down and just concentrate. I think that's mainly a concentration thing I need to do. But as Andre said, it's also putting the practice in. Keep coming back, putting the practice in, and never give up. Because the amount of races I've gone, sod this, I'm going to give up, and just stuck to it. I go, oh, bloody hell, that result was pretty decent.
100%. Never give up until the finish line. Definitely something we can all learn from and inspire to do. And, well, back to the final question, of course, before I do let you guys finally go. Ashley's already covered it to a degree in terms of is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out or thank you to? So, Andre, we'll come to you. Anyone else specifically you would like to give a thank you to?
Mainly to these two for the whole season, being together with me for to bring together all the points and finally win a team's championship together. Got to give a shout out to Craig as well. He joined us just before the season started, and it was absolutely brilliant racing with him. He's a really quick driver and a lot to learn from him as well. Eduardo as well. He joined us halfway through the season, and he's had his ups and downs, but he's a very fast driver, and he's definitely one to look out for in the following seasons. And just the whole team really is absolutely brilliant racing with him this season, and looking forward to doing more and more every year.
Oh, fair play. And then I would come to Ashley, but he's already answered it. So, Matthew, to yourself, lastly, anyone you'd like to give a shout out to specifically?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna be a proper brown nose. I'm gonna say thanks to Tom Pugh, the team owner, putting everybody together and working hard to keep us on the track and everyone organised, and putting a lot more responsibility on a few of us to help develop the team with him. So he's handed a bit out to us, and Ash is working on a lot of stuff behind the scenes. But I'm gonna be a mega brown nose. He's fantastic, and he's proper looked after us. So I want to say thank you to him.
Oh, fantastic. Well, gentlemen, it's been a blast speaking to all three of you together. And, well, thank you for joining me for an interview this evening. Firstly, Andre, congratulations on being our provisional inter-champion this season. A phenomenal effort. Of course, it is a shame we didn't get to see you and Robin have one final duel here at Imola. But still, you've earned it the right way every step of the way. And, of course, to all three of you guys, congratulations on becoming our provisional team's champions for this season. Incredibly well-deserved and earned. You took on some of the very best out there, and you've come out on top trumps. We look forward to the upcoming seasons on Thursdays and Sundays to see what you can all do as a team and as individuals. But until then, my dear fellows, congratulations once again, and have a great rest of your evening.
Yeah, cheers, fellas. See you next season.
See you next season, mate.
So here and there, ladies and gentlemen, from none other than the Axis Simsport Z team of what's Andrew Montaigne, Ashley Brooks and Matthew Croft. And what a set of stories they've had to tell us this season. And indeed, talking out there, starting with Andrew Montaigne, of course, the inter-champion, the biggest thing he's learned over the season really has been the consistency and that pace all in one, that package that he's been able to create for himself, and that turning point being at Daytona in those conditions, surviving those conditions to bring home such a landmark result, and more the positivity really shining through there, and that really translating into Ashley Brooks looking to really think to himself about the fact the one thing he's got to nail down is iron out those mistakes and keep moving on forward. But understanding for him, it's also been one of those seasons whereby he's never given up over the course of the season, no matter what's happened. And what's been quite intriguing, the fact is where things have gone wrong, as both Matthew and Andre mentioned, the fact Ashley was there to pick up the points when the other two dropped them, and that's why they have become your team's champions. And for Matthew there, despite the fact that in the end he wasn't able to really put together a campaign for the Pro Crown, given the way the results went in the first half of the season, really running the number 13 because of the fact it's associated with the bad luck that's hit him ever since season 8. I do remember that well, all those many, well, in fact, years ago now. But right right now for Matthew Croft. Definitely a challenging season, but hit the one thing he's always learned, never give up and finish these races. And today, on strategy, he had plenty of fun battling hard with Sean Connor and enjoyed himself all the way to the very end. And indeed, plenty to look forward to for Axis Simsport across the board. Not just the 3 drivers we spoke to, but all their different teams. And we've got plenty to look forward to from them across our Thursday and Sunday series in the weeks and months ahead. But what we've got to look forward to right now, ladies and gentlemen, is of course plenty more interviews. That's just our first interview of the evening, and we're going to be back in approximately 10 to 20 seconds time for our second interview of the day. And so, ladies and gentlemen, as we do have a slight technical hitch there, but don't worry, because we're coming to the right man now. We're coming to Richard Simnor, as he does join me in the interview room. Richard, good evening to you, and well, what an evening you've had. You were our defending champion for season 16 in our top class there. You haven't had a successful title defence, but goodness me, what a successful defence you've had for the most part this season. Thick of the fighting all the way to the very end. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better way to say goodbye to being our elite champion.
Hello. Yeah, no, it was all good. I think I'd like to finish it without having to do a stop and go, but not a stop and go, a splash and dash. But yeah, no, it was all right. It was a good season. Do you know, I was sort of sat there talking with Rhys. We were sort of trying to figure out, like, you know, what was good and what was bad for the whole season. And it just turns out, like, yeah, some of the best races I've had were in the wet. Which I couldn't remember, but I remember Nürburgring. Obviously, I nearly won that race, but Rhys was telling me about Daytona, where I went from like 20th to 4th, and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that one. I couldn't actually remember, but no, races like tonight. I mean, it's one of those things where I said this at the end of last season as well. Like, if you want to be in with it for a shot to win the championship, you've got to attend all the races. And I wasn't able to do it this season because of work commitments and stuff like that, or a couple of events I didn't feel very well. So wasn't able to attend every race. And if I actually sort of applied the score that I might have got, I think I would have been in there with the that little gaggle between second and fourth. And it was good racing those guys, William and Henrik. They're fantastic. Rhys and I know each other from WSR leagues and stuff like that. So we've raced together loads. So we've been chatting for most of the season. It's been really good. Sort of keeping these sort of people company and making new friends and all this kind of stuff. And you get to know, you know, how much you progress. So I think we've spoken about this before, but like how you progress through a season and when you look at where you started to where you finish. And if I feel like I've got to the end of a season and I'm driving better than I ever have, then that's really all that matters. The result is almost, I say almost because I haven't won anything, but it's almost secondary. I think I would have enjoyed it a lot more if I'd have been in the top 3 for sure, but yeah, circumstances meant that I wasn't gonna be there. But yeah, I mean, focusing on today's race and even last race, Harvey Wheeler and myself, like, 2 absolute bangers of races. You know, we were basically tooth and nail the whole way for those 2 races. Absolutely fantastic. And I think, like, he knew and I knew that it would be whoever makes the mistake. But even then, like, I think Harvey had a bit of a slide on, but let Rhys through at one point. But then they just managed to catch back up. So they had a little bit extra throughout, especially the tight chicane at the top. They were massively faster, most drivers. I wasn't able to hook it up every lap. But then I get to the straight, and that, I don't know what that setup on that Mustang was like, but it was so trimmed out. I just pulled every single time, even though they were in my slipstream by like 0.2 or 0.3, and I just thought, if that's the case, I'm probably okay. But everybody behind me was fuel saving, and that was the problem. So I got to the pits, I thought, you know what, I'll just trim it out a little bit just to get a little bit of a shorter stop and then keep an eye on it. And it was only by like less than half a lap I trimmed it out on the iRacing Auto Fuel. And normally it gives you an extra lap. I came out the pits, driving around, and by about 3 laps to go, I was like, I think I'm short here. And then across that line on the lap before I had to come in, and I was like, it's not white flag. Oh, well, that's that then. Which is a shame, you know, because I think right at the end there, Henrik was right there in front of me. If I had the fuel for that lap, it probably would have been exciting, to say the least. I think he probably would have defended quite heavily, and it would have taken quite a dare move to make that stick. But there was definitely an option for a podium today that didn't materialise because, yeah, unfortunately my calculation was wrong. But these things happen, right?
Oh, 100%. I mean, at the end of the day, when things do go wrong, you absolutely adapted to it and came in very quickly to sort it out. Although, like you say, ending the season on a splash and dash, not exactly the highlight you wanted, but it's the highlight that, unfortunately, it did come your way. And I appreciate you talking about the context of the whole season. And it's definitely very true. When we've seen you be able to really apply yourself over the course of this season, like today, you have been right in the thick of that top 5 and constantly chased that podium. And something tells me, when you look back at the highlights of the season, that Nürburgring race in the wet and you chasing after the win right at the very end is going to be up there.
Yeah, it was such a magical race because I think the Mustang around there in the wet was just really, really good, and just having the right sort of smoothness in my driving style naturally. You know, I'm not a very aggressive driver, and I sometimes lose a little bit of time to some of the front guys because of it. But then you get to a wet race, and that sort of smooth application into the apex, and knowing exactly, you know, which curves and which ones you should and shouldn't take. I don't know. I don't see myself as a wet weather specialist, but it's clearly a forte. So yeah, it was exciting. I was chasing William Arnesen all the way, and it was one of those races where you're like, oh, just one more lap, and then the checkered flag falls, and you're just like, it could have been something, you know, a little bit better. But I think I started 9th that race as well. So I think, you know, when you look back at it, you go, well, but you did start quite far down, and you sort of finished 2nd, nearly winning it, and it's like, that's impressive by any measure. So, you know, a lot of people started in front of me, finished behind me. So, you know, it's good to see it from that perspective and not sort of think about too much, not think about, you know, what could have been, you know, could it have been a win and all this kind of stuff. And I know, like, you compare this season to last season, and I think the last season, when I won the championship, it suffered a little bit at the front and in Pro class because we dropped numbers quite quickly. And it was just me and Joe Nathan and a couple of others that were left in the Pro class. So it was elite class. But we knew each other's pace, and I knew that I could stay ahead, you know, in those circumstances. So it was quite an inevitability in, you know, looking back at it. And then you get to this season and you see how stacked the class is, and you think, wow, this. I knew from the very beginning, it's like I'm going to be solidly mid-pack in the top class. I'm not going to be at the front. So my expectations was, I don't know, I'd finish about 8th, which is where I finished. So in some respects, I've done exactly what I thought I would do, but in other respects, like I say, I missed a few rounds, so it could have been better. So if I actually sort of think about that, maybe I should walk away with my head held high and sort of thinking, do you know what? If I'd have been there at every round, it would have been a top 3, and then, you know, that's beating my expectations. You know, so yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy. The result doesn't show it, but I am smiling.
Oh, indeed. I mean, I can hear it in your voice. It's that, in a way, a little bit of bittersweetness, but there is a very positive upturn in the way you're looking at things, and looking ahead, of course, to what's next. I mean, season 17 complete. You've shown some absolutely brilliant moments here. Can we expect you back on the grid for our Thursday or Sunday series in the near future, and perhaps even bring more of the DCW crew in?
Yeah, so we're actually going to switch to Thursdays, and we're going to be racing in the Superstar class. I think there's that split. I don't know how it works, whether that split 2 or whatever. But so we're going to be switching to Thursdays, and I think there's a good clutch of DCW. I think there's at least 6 or 7 of us, I think. So, as usual, you know, we join leagues en masse, and we end up taking up a quarter of the grid, and it's just a sea of yellow. So it's always good to see. I mean, obviously, that means that there'll be a lot of DCW incidents that you'll be commentating on, because chances are it'll be a DCW car involved. But yeah, we're a good crew. We have so much fun when we're all doing the league together. You know, it's a laugh a minute. So it's much better than just whenever I'm in those leagues where I'm on my own, it's great for my concentration, and I can really sort of set down some good lap times. But you sort of sit there thinking, well, I'd like to be talking to somebody, or at least have somebody to play tactics with. So this season, like I say, I mean, Hayden and Rhys, we've been sort of on voice together and talking through it. So even though we're not teammates in any respect, at least we can spot for each other, you know, if there's incidents going on and this, that, and the other. And although that did make me laugh actually today at the hairpin when I think it was Ashley spun, and Rhys just about missed him. Didn't call it, did he? He didn't say there's a spun car. So I come round the hairpin. It's an absolute jump scare. And I just managed to squeeze through. I think I took out the front end of Ashley's car. But yeah. But even so, like, yeah, having people on voice is always great. It's always good fun, and it gives you that little bit of validation. You know, are you doing the right thing? Are you not doing the right thing? Should you be saving or not? And like I say, and having somebody to spot incidents, or even where there's gravel on the track, which was it William had dragged a whole ton of onto the circuit with a couple of laps of incidents. Late in the race, it was good because Rhys spotted that for me, so I'd made sure I didn't take it full beans. Yeah, but no, Thursday nights DCW, it's going to be absolutely great fun. I hope people cheer for us in chat or point and laugh. It doesn't really matter. We're all grown-ups.
Oh, fair play. It will be absolutely brilliant to see the Sea of Yellow on Thursdays and the DCW crew, including yourself, coming on strong. And just before I do let you go, Richard, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to on tonight's broadcast? I'm
going to shout out Rhys because he said I should go for an interview today, and I was like, I kind of want to go to bed, but so I'm only here because of him. But no, he drove absolutely spectacular tonight. I've got to say. You know, his fuel tactics and his push to the end, right at the end there. I'm sure you were commentating on most of that. Absolutely spectacular to watch. And I was there, yeah, only a couple of seconds behind, getting a front row seat. Absolutely wonderful. And yeah, everybody else on the grid, especially all those in the elite class, you know, really good racing all the way through. You know, good luck with next season if you're in Sunday nights. If you're not, I'll see you there on Thursdays.
Well, Richard, it's been an absolute blast catching up with yourself for this season finale, and a brilliant effort from yourself to do battle for a top 5 finish. Sadly, wasn't to be given at the need for splash and dash of fuel, but you kept us entertained all the way through, as you have at some very pivotal moments over the course of the season. We look forward to seeing you and the DCW crew on Thursdays in the GT3 Championship there. But until then, my friend, well, definitely rejoice at the great moments of this season. We've been very happy to see you give it your all, and we'll see you again soon on the grid.
Cheers, Paul.
So hearing that, ladies and gentlemen, from Richard Sim for DCW Racing, very reflective on his championship season, and talking about there, of course, what has been the fact that he hasn't been able to quite commit to this season as much as he would like to, but also keeping it in perspective. If he had been able to, expect he would have been in the fight for somewhere between 2nd and 5th in the championship. But also talking about the fact that it really has been a great grid to be part of, and the elite class this season has just expanded so much, such a competitive grid looking back compared to season 16. 2016, and thinking to himself that it's always been the experience out there. Some great highlights as well, including his charge in the wet weather at the Nürburgring, what could have been a win, and here today as well, enjoying the battling and seeing Rhys Saunders charge his way off into the distance, whilst he was left to make sure that Pietro Antonio Pasquarello and Harvey Wheeler couldn't find their way through, but unfortunately the splash and dash cost him dear, with a sea of yellow making its way to Thursday evenings here at SimRacing International, and Richardson not being a part of it. We very much look forward to seeing his story continue on the grid in GT3 racing. But ladies and gentlemen, a couple more interviews to come, and next up we've got a special guest coming our way. And so, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to bring into this interview room now a man who has waited multiple seasons for this opportunity. His name is none other than Sean Connor. Good afternoon to you, Sean. How are you doing, good sir? And how does it feel to be our pro runner-up for this season?
It's good, Paul. Thanks for having me. I've been watching the interviews for a while now, and yeah, I'm ecstatic. It was not where I expected to be by the end of the season, so it was a great season. Everyone was super competitive all season, so yeah, I'm super happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's our pleasure. And to be fair, I mean, when we've seen you on the grid for the last couple of seasons, you've gradually moved forward as time has gone on, and this season's been interesting because if you took the first couple of rounds by themselves, as I just double check my results here to make sure that I'm getting this right, if you look back to the start of the season, there was that second place in round number 2, but things didn't really perhaps kick off, and then suddenly, round 5 onwards, a triplet of podiums, including a maiden win of the season, and suddenly you're up there, you're battling with Nathan Anstis, and you're closing on Kyle Roy. What clicked to enable you to make that change?
To be honest with you, I think I was just real nervous in the first couple races. It was my first time racing against a lot of these guys. I didn't know anybody out on the grid that I'd be racing against, and I got progressively more comfortable with the car as the season went on, so I think it was just a confidence thing, getting to know the people that I was racing with, knowing who's going to be aggressive, who's going to hang out and wait for a better opportunity. So kind of just really boosted my confidence to, bring me to that next level. And I think I'm just, progressively getting better as I'm racing in this league with you guys. It's an extremely competitive league, so you have really no choice but to get better, because if you stay stagnant, you're going to fall down the standings pretty quick. So yeah, I don't really know. It just started rolling for me.
Oh, fair play. Well, I think that confidence, I would agree with you, has been a big part of it. But to be fair, you've also delivered some absolutely incredible performances of your own doing. And coming on to today, of course, Kyle Roy, miles ahead in terms of points. You needed him to non-finish to be able to potentially steal the crown away. So really a focus perhaps for second between yourself and Nathan Anstis. But you came out swinging here with that pole position in qualifying. How was that as a qualifying lap? Because I think that's your first pole position of the season.
Yeah, it was super close. I think it was only a tenth or a tenth and a half, and from 1 to 3 or 4 in the class there. And I just kept going out, kept going faster. There was turn 6 and 7. I was actually able to find a quarter second there, but by the time I got to the top of the hill, I would end up losing all the time. The one lap that I did end up getting, I must have just had like an incredible run through there. So yeah, I was super happy with the pro pole there, but unfortunately I lost it off the start. Wasn't really happy about that, but yeah, I was really excited. I did not expect that. When I know Kyle Roy comes, when I know Matthew comes, it's gonna be a battle for that top spot. That's for sure.
Oh, 100%. And I do have to ask, of course, a different car coming into today, going away from your much fabled McLaren to the Aston Martin. I mean, is that a sign of change to come, or was it a bit of an experiment because you had the car change available?
So last season, in season 1 at the beginning of the new year, they had Imola on the roster there, and I drove the McLaren there all that week, and I was just out of touch with everybody, doing dailies and everything. I was just nowhere near the top guys. I was always like 8 tenths off. So towards the end of that week, I ended up using the Aston, and it ended up being an incredible couple races there. I was immediately 6-7 tenths faster in that car. Not really sure if it was like a driving style thing or if the car just suited the track a little bit better. But everyone was joking around in the chat afterwards that I should have been driving the Aston all season. So I think that's something I'm going to heavily consider going forward. I don't really get along with the front engine platform very well. So yeah, I think that's going to be something I'm going to heavily consider when I come back for the next season. So
Oh, fair play. Well, I think it's been good to see you experiment today, and then continue the story then of qualifying into the race. Of course, a bit of a challenging start, saw you drop down to third in the class early on. But as time went on in the race, we got to see yourself finding, well, you're in the middle of a rock and a hard place. Carl Rye's got the elites in front of him, but he's fuel saving off the back of them. You've constantly got Matthew Croft behind you, saving fuel but pressuring you. I mean, how do you work out what to do in that situation? Because you look like a man who had no options.
Yeah, I had, like, you're right. You said it perfect. I had no options. All I did was just push, push, push the whole time. I didn't want to let Matthew down because I knew that if he had, eventually went for the move on me, we were just going to fall farther behind Kyle. So I was really hoping that that chain in front of Kyle was going to back him up after a little while, but there was nothing that I could really do except the full push. If I start fuel saving, Croft loses time. I probably lose a little bit of time. And yeah, we weren't really in the best spot because he actually, Kyle had the draft of the 4 elite cars in front of him, and yeah, they just dragged him away farther and farther every lap, couple tenths here and there. So it was nothing but full push for me. I had no choice, I feel like.
All fair play. But in the end, whilst you may have lost out in the pit lane to Croft, and we did see him leap your course, towards the end of the race, he seemed to have run out of all the pace he had early on, and suddenly the hunted became the hunter.
Yeah, I don't remember which lap it was. There was, I think it was turn 5 or maybe turn 4, the high-speed left-hander. There was a ton of debris, tons of gravel all over the track, and I actually had the same moment Croft did, but I got real lucky. I think he ended up becoming friends with the wall. If I haven't looked or watched or seen anything yet, but I want to say he hit the wall, and that's what allowed me to close way back up. He must have had some wheel damage or something, because he just wasn't quite as quick as he was even when he was fuel saving in that first stint. So I just didn't want to ruin the race. I didn't want to blow the championship finale out by making a stupid move. So I kind of just hung out behind him, and I was okay with third. I knew that I had P2 in the championship locked, and it was kind of a win-win for him too, because they get those team championship points, and I really didn't want to ruin anything they had going on. They've worked hard all season, so I was okay with hanging out in P3. If I had to do the overtake, I would have had to force something, and Croft was super nice to me all race. He didn't throw anything up the inside. He just waited patiently, so he really believed in me in the first stint there, hoping that I could catch Kyle, and I told him along with me. But yeah, that's really I think what happened there. I kind of just ran out of the pace and got to a point in the race where we were okay with where we were at. I didn't want to do anything stupid, so.
I'm loving the mutual respect between the two of you, and I mean that is the camaraderie that we do love to see form between drivers over the course of the season. But of course, I do have to sort of think of what's next for yourself. You've been on the grid for a couple of seasons now. Can we expect you back for season 18?
I would fortunately like to say yes, but I'm actually taking a season off. I have a lot of weekend commitments coming up in the next couple months. So the one season, the next round, I think the rules are 1.5 multiplier on the 3 championship weekends, the 3 final seasons of the week of the 3 final weeks of the season, and I'll be missing 2 of them. So I simply just by signing up, I'll be taking myself out of contention. So I won't be around for Sundays, and I was a little bit late to get in a Thursday seat. So I'm hoping maybe there's a vacant seat or 2, maybe part of the way through the season that I can join into. But I will be taking 1 season off for sure, maybe halfway on a Thursday season, but then I'll be back for the next season 19 on Sundays for sure.
I mean, we're going to miss seeing you on the grid for the upcoming season. There's no doubt about it. Personally, Sean, you've been a blast to see week in, week out for the last couple of seasons. But I look forward to the day when you are back on the grid and we'll get to see you come back full fighting force all the way through. But just as I do get ready to let you go, 2 last questions. Firstly, if I had to say what has been your highlight moment from this season, what would it be?
Highlight. There was a lot of good things that happened throughout the season. I'm gonna pick 2. I'm gonna pick the overall class win in Bathurst. That was absolutely incredible. I've never won an SRI race before. I've had a lot of P2s in the seasons that I've done, but I've never been able to get over that hump of the final win. So that was absolutely incredible. And then my second one, when we raced VIR in the wet, I went around the outside of somebody on the hill after the S's. So I felt like the man when I pulled away from that, and I kept the car on the track. So those are probably pretty close. The overtake doesn't outweigh the win, but yeah, if I had to pick 2, that would be it.
Oh, 100%. I agree with you on that. I mean, anyone can pull a move around the outside through South Bend in those conditions. Definitely a hero's medal about that. And for yourself, I'm certain. But as we do, of course, sadly have to bring this interview to a close, I then do have to ask, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out or a mention to live on the broadcast?
Yeah, I got a couple people that I would like to thank. Not that it's really relevant, but like my wife, she lets me sit around in my race car sim all day. So props to her for dealing with that. I obviously want to give a shout out to my brother. He does a lot of practice with me throughout the week. He really, keeps me in check in regards to what we're doing, what the plans are, and what the outlook's going to be looking like for the future. And then if I had to give a shout out, it'd just be the Access Sim Sport guys. Those guys have been awesome to me all season. Bunch of great guys over there. And yeah, that's really all I got. Those guys are incredible. Yeah, if I had to give the shout outs, that's that.
Oh, fair play, Sean. I mean, if we have to describe someone as incredible, we have to say the same for yourself. You've kept us absolutely on edge throughout this season, whether you might be able to steal the Pro Championship away from Carl Roy. You may not have been able to do that, but you've definitely proven to be an absolutely valiant runner-up in the Pro class. You've earned it, and we'll definitely miss seeing you next season. But when you do come back, and tell you one thing, we'll all be excited for that, so we look forward to then. But until then, my friend, congratulations on ending the season with a podium and also the Pro run-up status, and we'll see you again in short order.
Cool. Thanks, Paul. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you. Love the broadcast. Keep it up, man.
Will do. So here and there, ladies and gentlemen, from Sean Connor, the Connor Bros driver. And well, it's crazy to think we've had to wait the best part of what has been 2 whole seasons to be able to bring him in for an interview. He's been an absolute legend on circuit, and well, an absolutely brilliant interview with him there as well. Getting to hear his perspective. And I do love the way he's really framed his achievements this season. The happiness with the win at Bathurst in the class, but also being able to pull off that overtake at South Bend at VIR. And well, the fact that he really is growing as the seasons have gone on. And as Nathan Anstis has said in the YouTube chat there, the fact that over the course of the season, he's gained the pace, he's gained the points, and that's that improvement. He's really been comfortable in this grid as time has gone on. And I think that confidence factor he alluded to at the second half of the season, where he ran what was the triplet of podiums back-to-back, including the Bathurst win, that has been the element that was missing early on. He's just settled in, got used to everyone he's racing with, and well, subsequently, it's been an upturn. And you can imagine when he does come back after that break, if he can bring that confidence together with the pace he's learned as well, he's definitely going to be a huge contender in whatever class he is racing in. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we've got one last interview to come, and well, they've been waiting patiently. So without further ado, let's bring you an interview with perhaps one of the youngest members on the grid. That's a guess or a hint of who it could be, but we'll be back very shortly to bring said interview. And so, ladies and gentlemen, for our final interview of the season, joining me now in the interview room, he may be young in age, but I can tell you one thing, he's incredibly quick and talented when it comes to being an elite driver. It's none other than the Harvey Wheeler for Free Racing by Phoenix. Harvey, good evening to you, and thank you for waiting this evening. What a race from yourself. You may have started 7th today, but 4th in the end, chasing the podium to the finish line as well. That was incredible.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. Good evening to you too. It was a really good race. I was quite happy, but also sad for Richard when I saw him dive into the pits 1 lap for the end. Still happy with the result, and good racing. Especially, I enjoyed the start. Yeah, good result. Team as well.
Oh, 100%. And let's talk a little bit more about the start today. Now, qualifying 7th on the grid, a very tight grid to be fair. Something tells me you weren't happy with your qualifying lap.
No, I've struggled, not just me, but the whole team 3WR. We've always struggled with this qualifying. It was a bit of a change from private qualifying sessions from the America's GT Challenge, and some of the traffic has been a bit hard to get through, but still, the qualifying, I found it quite enjoyable, to be honest. But yeah, the whole season especially this round, annoying with qualifying. I've had a lot of pace, I think, and I just wasn't able to but in qualifying and get as high as I wanted to be.
All fair play. Well, qualifying didn't work out perhaps, but then in the race, I mean, we saw in the early stages you tried to make some ground, you managed to get your way past Rhys Saunders early on, and you were all over the back of Richard Simnor lap after lap. That just looked as though in the end you were so close to that Ford Mustang through the corners, but you just couldn't pass it on the straights.
Yeah, it was annoying, but respect to Richard, he was so fast on the exits of where he needed to be, and I couldn't get past on the straights, couldn't get close enough to make a move into turn one. The Mustang is very good, but also definitely Richard he's a very good driver, and he's very quick, so it was very difficult to try and get past him.
Well, it may have been difficult to get past him initially, but as time went on, what we did see was, I think you were getting closer and closer, and there was this one point, it was just a small slide coming out of one of the chicanes, and it set you back a bit.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I was feeling the pressure from Rhys. He was really close behind me the whole first half of the race. And coming out of that corner, I just struggled a little bit. Almost spun it, but lost the position, was a bit disappointing, but I didn't lose it. Didn't put my car in the wall. And that's what I was trying to do the whole race. I was just trying to survive, get good enough points for the team to stay in the top 5.
Oh, most definitely. And as the race went on, of course, pit stops played out. We saw you in the end come back into the battling group. Rhys Saunders, of course, had run away to a degree and now was chasing down the podium spots. But we still had a fight for what would have been, at the time, 5th on our hands. And then subsequently, it became a fight for 4th with the retirement of William Arnesen. And towards the very end, we saw Richard have to go into the pits for an extra splash and dash of fuel. I suspect that might have been a bit of an unexpected twist.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting it. I had to fuel save in my second stint because I didn't think I was going to make it to the end. I crossed the line with no fuel. Shame Richard just wasn't able to do that. But it was a surprise, but I was quite happy that I was able to gain that position. Got some more points, which is, just like I say, good for the team.
Oh, indeed, and at the end, a 4th place. And with regards to perhaps your championship, before we talk about the teams, your championship this season has seen you finish 6th in the elite class, a very competitive field. Do you feel that 6th place represented where you were aligned in the order, or do you think you could have perhaps finished higher this season?
I think I could have finished higher if I hadn't have messed up some of my qualifying across the season. I found that quite annoying, but also the DNFs. That was really annoying for me. And if I hadn't have had those DNFs, I think I would have finished definitely in the top 5. But I'll just hope I can finish in the top 5 for next Sunday's season.
Oh, 100%. I mean, to be in such a competitive field, and like you say, some DNFs and bad luck as well, but you came close, so there's still plenty more opportunities as time goes on. And looking more towards the Teams Championship for Freewheeler Racing by Phoenix, yourself, Max, and also Tom, you finished 4th. It does mean you're within the top 5 for the trophy, so a huge effort in the end, and only 4 points off a sim coach right at the finish for 3rd place. I mean, you must be proud, but also at the same time, I can imagine all 3 of you are perhaps feeling perhaps we could have just managed to sneak into 3rd.
Yeah, the goal for this last race was just to survive and get good enough points to stay in the top 5 so that we could get trophies for the team. But once we saw the standings and that we were only 3 points off of 3rd, that angered me a little bit. If I'd just been a little bit faster in that race, maybe I would have got enough points to secure 3rd in the championship teams. But yeah, still 4th place is good enough for us. We're happy with that.
Oh, indeed. I mean, when you've had such a competitive field, it's a situation whereby just being inside that top 5 is a huge achievement. But I can understand why you're a little bit angry or frustrated at just missing out on third. But looking ahead now, you mentioned only moments ago the prospect of more racing on Sunday. So is that plan? We see you back on the grid for season 18?
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to it. I've gained some confidence from doing this league, and I hope if I avoid some bad luck like I've had this season, then hopefully I should do a bit better next season. Maybe get my first win. That's a wish. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Or fair play. Well, to be fair, you have finished on the podium this season, taking a second place a few rounds ago. So a first win can never be too far away. And we look forward to the day when you are able to achieve that. And as I just get ready to let you go, Harvey, is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out or a mention to on the broadcast?
Yeah, definitely. I'd like to shout out to my friends supporting me, and also just the team, Tom and Max Wheeler, and also to my mum, as it's Mother's Day, so happy Mother's Day.
Oh, fantastic. Well, indeed, like you say, it's Mothering Sunday, and therefore happy Mother's Day to all mothers out there. And, well, congratulations to yourself once again, Harvey, because a solid fourth place day right in the thick of the fighting, which is where you've been all the way through this season. Perhaps not a top 5 in the Elite Championship, but I'm sure that is going to come at some point, perhaps next season. We look forward to seeing you back. But until then, congrats to you and the team for finishing in the top 5 of the Team's Championship. We look forward to even more next time round. But until then, savour the moment, enjoy it, and have a wonderful rest of your evening.
Thank you very much, Paul. I'll see you soon.
So here and there, ladies and gentlemen, from Harvey Wheeler, and great to speak to the youngster from Free Wheeler Racing by Phoenix. And what's very interesting there, the maturity, and again, and we should point out, he's one of the youngest members on the grid, as you may have been able to hear from his voice there. But to be fair, it doesn't matter how young you are. When you go racing out there, you race like an adult, and he has shown that all the way through the season. And well, the Free Wheeler Racing by Phoenix drive coming into today, knowing that one of the struggles the team have had this season has been qualifying. They're having trouble adjusting to these open, extended qualifying sessions where you've got everybody out on the circuit for a long period of time. So it's been their weakness. But the one thing that Harvey has not been weak at is going all in for battles throughout the season, and here was no exception. Constantly on the back of Richard Simnor for so long, with Rhys Saunders piling on the pressure and talking out there the interesting dual dynamic, which was trying to attack a Mustang that just could get such a strong corner exit. And we heard from Richard Simnor early on, who talked about how good the car was going onto the straights, versus Rhys Saunders constantly behind him, an ever-present threat. And in that small mistake, well, he put it in regard to the fact he didn't want to make the mistake, but he was able to keep the car together, and that was the most important thing. Now, of course, picking up a couple of places at the end due to the misfortune of others, and therefore not perhaps surprised at the fact he was able to pick up the points, but was enjoying the fighting out there and did feel a bit sorry for his rivals. But that's the way it's gone, and the most important target was to make sure he achieved the points to help the team finish inside the top 5 in the Team's Championship. Has enabled that, but he wants to go even quicker in the Elite class and wants to pick his first win up next time out in the season, and we look forward to seeing whether Harvey Wheeler can become a first-time winner in Season 18. But until then, he's going to keep on dreaming, he's going to keep on pushing, and we look forward to him and the Free Wheeler Racing by Phoenix team to keep on doing that as well. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that brings our interviews to a close. It's been an extended interview session here for our season finale. It's always good to hear from so many of our drivers. So without further ado, let's give you a reminder of who exactly we've spoken to. Now, of course, we've spoken to quite a variety of drivers here, and we do kick off with, well, we get a bit of a technical hitch there. We do apologise for that. Bit of a weird technical issue, but that has decided to resolve itself, it would seem. And we started off with none other than Andrea Miatto, who in the Interclass were your provisional Inter-champion and part of the provisional Teams champions there. And congratulations to him coming on home with the class winning the Interclass for Access in Sport Z after starting in second place, albeit picking up the pieces that were left behind by Martin Kenyon when it all went wrong. And then we heard from his teammates Ashley Brooks and Matthew Croft, and well, all three of them in the end being able to tell us their brilliant stories, and well, what a treat it was to speak to the three of them. We then heard from the defending elite champion who passes on the mantle to Andrea Miatto, DCW Racing's Richard Simnor, reflecting on the positives and also what could have beens of this season. And then we came to our other interviewees, including none other than Sean Connor, the Connor Bros provisional pro runner-up there, and great to hear from him after that pole position, which he's proud of, but unfortunately a third place in the class in the end, but a respectable third place, working with Matthew Croft throughout the entirety of the race to see if they could bring down Kyle Roy. And then we came to none other than Harvey Wheeler in the elite class only moments ago, the three-wheeler racing by Phoenix driver, talking on his reflections of the season and the fact that he's definitely brought a lot of pace to the table and hoping he can hone his qualifying pace next season and go for his first win. A big thank you to all of our interviewees, all 6 of them. It's been such a joy to speak to them all, and well done to them all on their performances, not just today, throughout the season, and to all of our drivers as well. They've all made the season what it has been. But, ladies and gentlemen, as we do get ready to wrap up, of course, there is that one final question of how exactly do the provisional standings stand. And in fact, let's bring you them, starting with the Elite Drivers' Championship class. As we can see, after a grand total of 10 out of 10 rounds, Andrea Miatto is your provisional champion for Tata and ResTech with 4 wins, matching the 4 wins of William Arnesen, but Arnesen falling to third with a late retirement, and Henrik Strand rising into that second place there, with 2 third places to wrap up the season. But Andrea Miatto untouchable at the very end, and congratulations to the Italian driver for withstanding the pressure and bringing on home the crown. Well done to the Beta Frost pair of Strand and Arnesen for completing the top 3 there. And indeed, a challenging end of the season, particularly for William Arnesen, with some late retirements in the races, definitely cost him dear. And Rhys Saunders in the end with that second place, it wasn't enough. And in the end for him, it has been a 4th place at the very end, but he came close and made sure that he was clear of Pietro Antonio Pasquariello. The Tartan ResTech driver, meanwhile, holding on to that final spot only by a grand total of 8 points to the finish, ahead of three-wheeler racing by Phoenix's Harvey Wheeler. Gutted to have missed out on the top 5, but looking for that next season. And then Max Wheeler wasn't too far behind there for three-wheeler racing by Phoenix, ahead of Richard Simnor, who enjoyed his season, even if it wasn't quite the season he wanted, but the DCW Racing driver pushing hard and taking 8th. Hayden Miller, 9th, but missed the round today, and therefore the 370 points was the first he would go, with Casper Ott there completing the top 10, and Justin Noel and Salvatore Ferrandino ran off the elite top 12. To the pro class, and here we can see Kyle Roy, your provisional pro champion. The Scotsman for Mirka Group M Esports, absolutely leading the way by a grand total of 108 points in over Sean Connor, and ending his season on a win, which really cemented his status as the driver to beat. Sean Connor then a run up for Connor Bros Racing and taking a third place, that hard-earned one at the finish, with Nathan Anstis having a nightmare end today, but just holding off Matthew Croft by 6 points to complete the podium. Matthew Croft, well, some bad luck striking him earlier on in the season, but the Axis What Z driver, 9, it wasn't to be his podium today when it came to his championship position, but ended his season with a podium there and a triplet of podiums, a first, a third, and a second. Ross Young, unfortunate for him in the fact that he did end up in that early incident with Nathan Anstis, but the two of them have settled their differences over it. And I do believe they treated it as a racing incident from what I've gathered down the pit lane. And well, for Ross Young, still making sure he finished inside that top 5 just about, with Steve Hobbs falling 32 points short. On the sim coach drive, it was then Darren Sharples at further 10 drift, but ahead of Hendrik Zilka, and Rob Windsor and Eduardo Royes completed your top 10, with Maxim Philippon missing this round and being relegated to a length for Gastup Motorsports ahead of Ashley Brooks, who just held on to a top 12 spot. Then to the interclass, lastly of our Drivers' Championships, and here we can see Andre Mentine, your champion. And in the absence of Owen Pownier, well, it was a foregone conclusion, but the Axis Sport Z driver made sure that he was going to pick up the maximum points, and that second place being converted to a first right towards the end. Rowan Pownier, well, he may not have been here right at the end, but he still definitely earned that second place in style for Sim Coach, and he's enjoying his holiday right now, I can assure you of that. And Craig Hewlett, meanwhile, for Axis SimSport Y, well, not on the grid today, and unfortunately, not quite able to take the fight for the championship crown, but able to hold on to third, just ahead of Martin Kenyon. The Nitrous Motorsport Zemeckis driver in the end taking that 4th place, and well, 16 points between the two of them. And well, sadly, that non-finish just cost him Riise, and when it could have been a first win after his run of podiums earlier on the season. But Grant Miller fending off the attack from Tom Wheeler and guaranteeing his top 5 spot there for Phoenix Racing with his one and only podium of the season. He's 6 points behind Kenyon, and in the end only 20 clear of Tom Wheeler. Behind Wheeler, it was Nick Parks there, there, who definitely didn't have the best of the ends to the season that he was looking for after a good run midway through the season, but expect him to be increasingly strong as time goes on. David Young as well, round of the season back-to-back top 5 finishes. The logistical nightmare racing driver wasn't too far adrift and was just ahead of Alexander Wingmark. Then we had Daniel Payne completing your top 10, with Shane Connor falling to 11th right at the finish, and the Connor Bros Racing driver followed up by Shane Cotton and proving he was the number 1 Shane through to the end of the season. Then to the team standings, last but by no means least, and here we can see your winners, Axis SimSport Z on 1,590 points, the best part there of 158 points ahead of Beta Frost and getting the job done. In fact, my mental mathematics is incorrect there. 148 points ahead in the end. But either way, whether the maths is right or not, Axis SimSport Z, your champions, and Beta Frost valiant runners-up. They will come to be clear of Sim Coach in the end, who made sure to leap their way into third and stay there right at the close ahead of Freewheeler Racing by Phoenix, who did their own efforts there to move into the top 5. And Dexterous Motorsports, they may have fallen, but they've fallen to 5th, and therefore they will be taking trophies home with them. Then we can see Mirko Group M Esports just outside the trophy positions, but in 6th and only was 14 points ahead of Tartan Redtech, with UKSimRacing Mission 8th place ahead of Phoenix Racing and Connor Bros Racing completing the top 10. As we expected, they'd hold on, and they held on just about. So congratulations to all of our champions across our drivers and teams championships, and to all of our trophy winners, and even those who didn't take home trophies, a huge congratulations to them on all their finishing positions. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, it does mean it is now time for us to wrap up. And thank you very much for watching. And if you have enjoyed today's show today, and perhaps you're sat there right now wondering what's next then, how can you perhaps get on the grid to go racing at SimRacing International? Well, for all that and more, we definitely recommend you join our official Discord. Invite link available at the bottom of the screen, as you can see there, and you can get on the grid to join the next seasons of the series you see, where it be our Thursday GT3 Championship that's about to make its way into Season 12, where 120 drivers across 2 splits every Thursday evening. Or, of course, you have Season 18 of the UK SimRacing Community Sunday GT3 Championship, and we're going to tell you a little bit more about that very shortly and remind you what exactly is happening in Season 18. Or if you're looking for GT racing but you want to go back in history, we of course do have our Friday series that's dedicated to GTEs, of which Season 2 is only a couple of weeks away. But if you're looking for something a lot more casual, perhaps nowhere near as competitive and free to join, well, of course you're in good luck, because we do have our Practice League, which does run on Tuesday evenings, Wednesday evenings and Saturday afternoons. So there's never been a better time to be on the grid here at SimRacing International, and we'd absolutely love to have you. We'd also like to take a moment to say a big thank you to our series and league sponsors, who do include, of course, CarMate, Modern Technology, and the GP2 Group. And also we need to give a shout out to Motorsport UK's esports division for recognising us here at SimRacing International as a recommended community. We're very grateful for that recognition, and long may it continue as we make our way throughout 2026 and onwards. But then, ladies and gentlemen, what exactly is next? Well, the good news is you don't have to wait too long, because we will return for Season 18 starting on Sunday the 5th of April 2026. And indeed, with a new season only the best part of 3 or so weeks away, what exactly is the story you need to know about? Well, the key story is, as we do show you on screen here, in the fact, we have an all-new season, but it is going to be the Sunday GT3 UKSimRacing Sunday Showdown series that's being rebranded to. And well, that means change is afoot. The first big change, of course, is the fact that we have 3 new Showdown rounds. More on those very shortly, what exactly that means. We have our 3 classes returning across, of course, over 10 championship rounds of racing. We have the Pro class, the Inter class, and the Evo class. It's our Elite, Pro, and Inter classes being rebadged, but they remain exactly the same in terms of the fact 3 Drivers' Championship classes and 35 personalised driver trophies to be won across our Drivers' Championship classes and also the Teams' Championship. It's going to be broadcasted as well. I'll be back in the commentary booth bringing you all the race actions as if it were live, and indeed I won't be available to be able to bring you the broadcast on Sundays live from circuit side, at least not for the first 7 rounds of the season before we get to the Showdown rounds. But I promise you one thing, there will be a broadcast available the day after on Mondays wherever possible, and it will bring you all that race action as if it were live over the course of the season. But then the big question, what exactly is changing? Why are we calling it the Sunday Showdown? Well, that's because the first 7 rounds are regular rounds, of which drivers can drop a single score for one of those 7 rounds. But then rounds 8, 9 and 10, they are the Showdown rounds. They're worth extra points. They're worth 1.5 times the points that the first 7 rounds will be available for, and also the final 3 rounds are undroppable as well, so therefore you need to stay in it all the way to the end of the season. It's not going to be a compromising one, and it is going to be one whereby every point matters to the very end. And into that as well, the fact we do have 2 90-minute races being introduced, 1.5-hour races on top of our 1-hour races, and with 60 drivers on the grid, you can understand that it's going to be fast, fast, fierce and ferocious from lights out to checker flag each and every race, and from season start to the very end. And that all begins on Sunday, the 5th of April 2026. And if you want to be on the grid, make sure you join the SimRacing International Discord and get yourself signed up as soon as humanly possible. So that's what lies in store next time out, ladies and gentlemen. So save that date in your mind. Season 18 begins Sunday, the 5th of April 2026, and we're back for all the race action then. But until then, it is goodbye from us now for Season 17 of the UK SimRacing Sunday GT3 Championship. That is it. The curtain must come down. And so, ladies and gentlemen, it has been a blast. It's been a pleasure. But we have been SimRacing International. I've been your host and commentator, Paul Walsh. Congratulations to all the drivers, to our champions, and everyone who's made this season as spectacular as it has. But until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, remember to stay on track. We'll see you in Season 18. Good night.